again, a warm welcome to all of you all on this August morning, and our dignitaries, our guests, the students of various institutions. It's such a pleasure having all of you all here today. I'd just like to tell you, today you're about to experience something really amazing. We have people in their fields who are going to be talking about, of course, the topic, transformation in the hospitality and service sector. And stalwarts are here to give you insights into the hospitality sector. And trust me, I've never seen so many stalwarts at a single place talking about this particular topic. So you are going to experience amazing insights into transformation in the hospitality and service sector. And ladies and gentlemen, once again on behalf of CMA and IMA, I would like to welcome all of you all to the Calcutta Management Summit. They say we in the radio business tend to talk too much, so I'll leave it short and sweet. And with that, I'd like to call on the President of the CMA, Mr. TVS Shenoy, Chief Commercial Officer, Long Products, Tata Steel Limited, and of course the President of CMA to kindly give the opening address. Sir, over to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, Calcutta, it's 10 a.m. It's a bit too early in the day, and I know, but good morning, everyone, and wonderful to be back to see you all physically. On behalf of the CMA, the Executive Committee, it's my pleasure and privilege to invite you all to the Sir Jehangir Gandhi oration, as well as the 22nd Management Summit. But more importantly, let me tell you a bit about what the Management Summit is all about and why are we here. The CMA, the Calcutta Management Association, was conceptualized somewhere in 1957 by the then Sir Jehangir Gandhi, who was the director of Tata Iron and Steel Company, now what's called Tata Steel. And we are the oldest regional management association in the country. And on his memory, we have an oration followed by the summit proceedings. And this year and this day, what better than seeing how India is evolving as a destination for hospitality, how India is transforming, the world is transforming, pandemic has taught us so much, there's so much on sustainability, and hence the theme about transformation in hospitality and services. That's something which we all are going to hear from eminent speakers, and we look forward to the sessions which follow. But a bit about Sir Jehangir Gandhi and the kind of visionary he was. Imagine 1957 to think and conceptualize about what a management association can be. Profit the Mind was a logo then, and it continues to be now. And let's hear a bit about Sir Jehangir Gandhi, see him, what he was all about, and then we step into the oration. Over to Anirban, if you could play the video, please.
Sir Jehangir Gandhi, born on November 18, 1896 at Bombay. Sir Jehangir Gandhi took his BA honours in physics and chemistry from St. Xavier's College and Wilson's College, Bombay. He completed his postgraduate studies in business administration at Columbia University, New York, and in metallurgical and steelworks engineering at the Carnegie Institute of Technology, Pittsburgh. In 1921, he joined the Tata Steel Works as a metallurgical engineer. His meteoric rise saw him being appointed general manager in 1938. He was the first Indian to hold this position. As general manager, he was instrumental in cutting down costs, eliminating waste, and steering the steel works successfully through the Great Depression of the 1930s. In 1945, he was appointed director in charge of Tata Steel. A more significant recognition of his outstanding ability came in 1959, when he was appointed a director of Tata Sons, the parent firm controlling the Tata Group of companies. He was also the chairman of the Indian Tube Company and a director of Indian Tin Plate Company of India Limited. Besides steel and engineering industries, Sir Gandhi's activities covered a wide-ranging field. Recognition of his professional ability and his broad vision as a technocrat came from both within and outside the country. He was called upon by the Government of India to help in the country's industrial and steel development plans. He was also involved in working out blueprints for the designing of modern management and technical education in the country. He was the chairman of the committee appointed by the government whose recommendation led to the foundation of both the Indian Institute of Technology and the Administrative Staff College, Hyderabad. Sir Jehangir Gandhi was the president of the Board of Governors of the Xavier Labour Relations Institute, Jamshedpur. In fact, it was he who conceived the idea of the institute and was deeply involved in its working in progress since it was set up in 1942. As Vice President of the Acharya Jagdish Bose Centenary Committee, he initiated in 1960 a scheme of science talent search, now widely known as Jagdish Bose National Science Talent Search Scholarship. The Calcutta Management Association was founded under his leadership in 1957. In 1945, he was conferred the knighthood. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan in 1958 for his outstanding contribution towards the industrial development of India. In 1964, he was invited by Columbia University to accept at a special convocation the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws. Sir Jehangir, a leader, a visionary, and a technocrat extraordinary.
To imagine this in 1957, the day and age then, and now when we look at problems and see how they were solved then, phenomenal leader. But we have got another phenomenal leader to deliver the memorial oration. And here, Mr. Puneet Chhatwal. I'm absolutely delighted to have Mr. Puneet Chhatwal deliver this address. A great, phenomenal professional, but more importantly, a great human being as well. I've had personal opportunities of working with him in few projects, and I can vouch for it. The Tajness lives in every employee, but I think driven by Mr. Puneet Chhatwal himself. Let me introduce Mr. Puneet Chhatwal to each one of you. Mr. Puneet Chhatwal joined the Indian Hotel Company, the IHCL, as a managing director and the CEO in November 6, 2017. He's a global professional with close to 4 decades of leadership experience at highly acclaimed international hotel groups. Under his leadership, IHCL has been on a journey of reimagination. We have seen how Kolkata has changed to achieve sustainable, profitable growth. Mr. Chhatwal also serves as a leading voice of the industry in India as his capacity as the chairman of the National Committee of Tourism, Hospitality, CII, and the president of the Hotel Association of India. Prior to this, Mr. Puneet Chhatwal had huge overseas experience as well as member of the board of Stanley Hotels, Dosh Hospitality. He is also the chief development officer at the Carlson Hotels Worldwide, based out of Belgium. Mr. Chhatwal is a graduate of the Delhi University and the Institute of Hotel Management, Delhi. He has also completed an MBA in hospitality from ESSE Paris and advanced management program from INSEAD. Across his global leadership career in hospitality, Mr. Chhatwal has received several acclaimed industry awards. He was honored with the Carlson Fellowship in 2012. He was also the first alumnus included in the ESSE IMHI Hall of Honor in 2014. It is my pleasure and privilege to introduce to you Mr. Puneet Chhatwal. Welcome, sir, to deliver the oration.
Thank you, TVS. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. The transformation in hospitality is something which India is witnessing, including in tourism. I think it's the base that we start with. is tourism, and hospitality is one of the verticals of tourism. So is, airlines, and so is, flight kitchens, and so is restaurant services. And as the Honorable Prime Minister recently coined the term, I think we are at that tipping point where you can say this is like the beginning of the Amrit Kal for tourism sector. And it's very normal why it is like that, because India became independent only in 1947, and the important thing was to provide employment to people. Important thing was to fight poverty. It could not have been possible to include tourism in the concurrent list of constitution. It could not have been the focus. But as the economy has grown among the top 5 in the world, many other things come along with it. And the good news, which I'm going to show you in this presentation, is that India is so well positioned to take advantage of this opportunity, which is really not being tapped as well in the last decades for a variety of reasons. So here we are in a situation where the economy is growing, where the positioning of India is growing, and with its rich cultural heritage, the sector is so well positioned to contribute exponentially to the GDP growth and the employment growth in the country. As I just mentioned, it's not just the growth in the GDP, it's the growth in your what you call the middle income group, right? 80% of the households are expected to enter the middle income group, and there is an expected increase of 5x in income by 2030. If you have those kind of increases, it creates disposable income. If there is disposable income, there is discretionary spend. If there is discretionary spend, then it goes into travel and hospitality. Further, there is a big opportunity because we have a very young population. We have all these digital natives. We have people who are connected 24/7. We have, a lot of young people. The median age, which was at 29 last year, would be 31 in 7-8 years from now, and would only be 37 when we finished 100 years of independence. So that is a potential that India has, which possibly no other country has. Now, the tourism potential itself is not just limited to metro cities, the urban and the MICE. The urban and the MICE is going to get a big boost this time through the G20, through the World Cup cricket, through the leisure, sports, adventure, recently concluded World Cup hockey in Orissa, wildlife, a lot of wildlife parks, adventure tourism, which has grown by over 200% in the last 3 years, spiritual, religious, whom I am addressing this in Kolkata, very close to here, is being the Buddhist sector, which is very famous. Look at what has happened in Kashi Vishwanath, from 80 lakhs to a 30x increase in number of visitors to the holy city of Banaras, and obviously our culture, our heritage, which is so rich as the oldest civilization of the world. The trends are also supporting. There is a robust growth in demand. This has been led by domestic. This never happened before, because as you will see, the foreign travel arrivals is still at 60% of what it used to be. The limited supply growth. There is not so many hotels that have got added as they were added, let's say, between 2010 to 2015. So supply is limited and demand is increasing at 5%, supply at 3%. So obviously this gives you an ability to charge. If you have an ability to charge more, that means the profitability increases. If the profitability increases, the investment in the sector increases. So we are coming from a situation of oversupply for a variety of reasons, whether it was a global financial crisis of 2008, if this was terror attacks in 26/11, or it was supply outpacing demand because of a lot of builders getting into hotel business, which was not their core business. So today, India is at a very good position with a very strong domestic growth. Just imagine 1.4 billion people. If only 1/3 of that was relevant, it's a huge number of people that are relevant for the sector. If you just imagine that number of people who were not traveling on their own, not driving on their own, but started doing so after COVID, if that was even just 10 million people continuing to do so, and they did 3 to 5 additional room nights in a year, that means it's around 50 million incremental room nights. So there is a big opportunity, especially coming from the domestic sector. A lot of people use terms like YOLO, you live only once, kal hona ho, zindagi na milegi dobara. That all is there, but definitely there is a permanent shift in the consumer behavior. Then obviously the international travel has commenced. So we have seen a lot of international travel happening in the last 100 days. Almost 50 top CEOs in the world have stayed with us, with the Taj Group, in the last 100 days. So I think that is, we had the entire board of Lufthansa just last week. We've had, you name it, you have seen it in the news, in the newspapers, of all the people who are visiting India. Very important pillar for India through all these turbulences has been the wedding segment. I think this is here to stay. This is not going anywhere. So I think the celebration of weddings as a social event is a USP of India, which is not seen so much on the Western Hemisphere. And those weddings, even if they were restricted to 200 people, our people were so smart, they divided it over 4 or 5 days, and still it was 1,000 people wedding. So somebody invited on a Wednesday, somebody on a Thursday, someone on a Friday. And those weddings kept happening, and they kept our sector going. And last not least, the immersive experiences. What we have seen during this time is a lot of other kinds of hospitality offerings have emerged, whether it's home deliveries, whether it's homestays, or it is, wellness retreats. A lot is happening in this sector, which is very good. Now, what has 2 years done? The 2 years of COVID have created history, a sector that went down to zero revenue, zero, because hotels were under a lockdown. We had to pay excise fees. We had to pay our rents, we had to pay property taxes, we had to pay everything. All statutory obligations were met by this sector with zero revenue. And still, we bounced back. So the resilience of the sector is second to none. And during this time, the community service in hosting frontline workers in the hotels, the hospital staff, right, in providing meals to the migrant workers was very exemplary, because nobody, when you have no money, you have no cash flow, you have no CSR funds, nothing, how do you do it? Almost everyone in the sector did that. And of course, Indian Hotels, Tata Group as Taj, we were the pioneers. We started with that as early as 22nd of March, almost 3 years ago, which was the day of Janta curfew, right? And 24th March was the lockdown, and I have a friend, he said, let's do something. And he's he's well known, the celebrity chef Sanjeev Kapoor. So I said, what will we do? So he says, no, let's start giving meals. I said, what will that bring? He said, you will see, once we start, others will follow. And exactly that happened. We ended up serving almost 6 million meals over the first, second, and third wave, including the Assam flooding. And we hosted 120,000 room nights alone in Taj branded properties with 11 hospitals across the country. So that's, and all other brands, all other companies also contributed. So I think the resilience of the sector, the service to the community, and innovation during this period in changing its cost base, in changing the variable cost to no cost, in changing the fixed cost to variable cost or semi-variable cost was also exemplary. The other things which we are all hearing recently that is helping the sector is obviously developing in the post-budget webinar of the Honorable Prime Minister. We have the two special situations of developing tourism both in a mission mode and a challenge mode. And within that, 50 new destinations have been announced which will be created over this short to mid-term to boost the tourism, including the focus on Prasad, facilitating e-visas, make in India to heal in India. That means the medical tourism, and with the help of the organization called Invest India. So whether it is Dekho Apna Desh or Incredible India campaigns, all these campaigns are expected to further boost tourism. I would like to quote here the Prime Minister that tourism has the same potential in the country as agriculture, development, infrastructure, and textile. India has a lot to offer to high spending tourists. This year's budget focuses on the holistic development of the destinations. We will have to think out of the box and plan ahead to achieve new heights in tourism. Tourism is an indirect beneficiary of the government's focus on infrastructure development. If there are no roads and if there are no airports, if there are no train networks, then tourism cannot thrive. You will be able to sustain, but it will not thrive. And this focus on, as an example, 70 airports becoming 140 and very soon becoming 225 airports in India is going to ultimately help the travel. Once the travel happens, it helps the room nights in hotels and also the development of hotel business. And all this is very critical because not only this is a creator of jobs, this sector creates the highest number of indirect jobs in any place in the world. You have to think about all the suppliers of milk, vegetables, eggs, your shikarawala in Dal Lake, your rickshawala in Kashi Vishwanath, everybody earns through the activity in this sector. Unfortunately, because of the divide in the organized and unorganized sector, we cannot exactly extrapolate the figures, but anything around 10% contribution to GDP and 10% contribution to the new jobs created is a number one can look for. And this is going to become a 6x growth with US $3 trillion just coming from travel and tourism industry. As per the latest WTTC reports, 126 million new jobs are expected to be created in this sector, of which India's share is estimated by WTTC Global of being 20%. And that shows in what is the job base we had pre-COVID of 40 million, expected to go to 60 million and ultimately 100 million jobs. And 100 million jobs is what this nation needs, and aiming for India to also come in this time period of Amrit Kal from the number 7 position to the number 3 position, so that it is there to contribute as positively as possible to the growth of the country. Now, having said that, I think you also all want to listen to what does this mean for Indian hotels. And I have to also justify that I am here because I have to say something about the company. So I wanted to set the context. And now, in all this that is happening around us, who are we? Firstly, who are we and what did we do? We are today a 250 plus hotels company. Now that's largest hospitality ecosystem on the Indian subcontinent, which has hotels, which has flight kitchen, which has homestays under the name AMA. We are also operating in 11 countries. We are present in 30 states and union territories of India, over 125 plus locations. 5 years ago, we embarked on a journey of reimagination, and we said, what if we saw things differently? What if we thought beyond what we were thinking and imagined or reimagined our entire hospitality ecosystem? And we called that journey as Aspiration 2022, where we were doing very well. We had 9 quarters of consecutive growth, and then COVID hit us, and then we were, thrown back for almost 6 quarters, and now we are back with a bang with 3 quarters of record growth. Actually, our profit in the last quarter itself, profit after tax, was higher than our best full year financial performance in the history, which is 120 years, in the 120-year history of the company. So, and all this started with I'm going to show you a clip, a movie which says it all instead of me trying to explain what this hospitality ecosystem is. This is 5 years old, but this movie still is well received. It runs on the channels of all our properties in all our brands. And ultimately, we ended up becoming, with Taj, which is the backbone of the company, the world's strongest hotel brand for 2 years in a row with brand finance. This is a unique honor because it never happened with another brand in a B2C brand coming from India. So this is for 2 years, and 3 years in a row, twice we were number one and once number two in being the strongest brand across all sectors. That means that includes your banking, insurance, other FMCG groups, etc., etc. So coming to that, I think let's look at the movie, and I don't know if you can dim the lights a bit and raise the volume. mentioned to all of you, this was 5 years ago when we thought to ourselves, what if? 2 years was spoiled by COVID, but we still added almost 100 contracts to our portfolio, 100 homestays. We have demonstrated significant increases in the quarters that we have reported to our revenue, significant increases to our bottom line, significant value creation in all the hospitality brands that we have to offer. Today, Taj Sats, as an example, a flight kitchen business, is almost having a domestic share of 58% of all the meals or all the hospitality offered in the year. So today, we are all collected here in Vivanta. These were names which were reimagined, repositioned, including a ginger, because these were lovely ideas, and the time was to get into the execution mode. And actually, we can make the best of movies and make the best of presentations. Ultimately, the numbers have to match, and that is something which has given us immense pleasure. So today we are a portfolio which is spread around this 125 destinations, which is also in line with the nation-building ethos of the Tata Group. We have added 15 new destinations just in 2022. This includes destinations like Lakshadweep. We are going to do 2 islands in the island of Lakshadweep. 3-4 years ago, we opened the first really classy hotel in Andamans in Havelock. And that journey continues just like the movie demonstrated, that how we started Goa and how we started in Kerala. Besides that, obviously, as the movie also showed, we are in very iconic locations like London, like New York, overlooking the Central Park, behind the Buckingham Palace. And now, let's say 3 hotels in operation in Dubai. One is nicer than the other for that location. And also in exotic destinations like Maldives, etc. So I think that journey continues. But no journey would be complete if we did not take care of the community. Last year, on the 24th of March, we had launched Pathya as our ESG Plus program. And on Pathya, we have the 6 pillars, which starts with the environmental stewardship, that we need to promote that. We need to be socially responsible. So we promise social responsibility. We have to have prudent corporate governance. We have to preserve heritage, which is a very important part of tourism. Have progress in sustainable growth, and be a partner in transformation of a lot of our goals. What does this translate into some measurable goals? In the measurable goals, we say we'll have 100% wastewater recycled. We will skill 100,000 youth in this company. Our need of labor is today, our entire system would have around 28,000 employees. If I project it forward for the next 5 years, maybe we'll have 35 or 40,000 employees. So we are skilling this for the nation in collaboration with various institutions, including CII, and the commitment is to skill 25%, that means 25,000 of the 100,000 have to be women. And we've just launched our 16th skilling center together with our Tata Group synergies in Jamshedpur, and the 15th was in the city of Lucknow. We have committed to get 50% of all our energy from renewable sources by 2030. Have 100% hotels, all our hotels, EarthCheck certified, 100% of our hotels to go beyond single-use plastic. I don't know if you notice all the bottles on your table, all the things, this is changing. As we speak, there's no plastic around, and you will have also water bottles. We have our own water bottling plants, and if you went to Taj Bengal, you will see the water bottles of Pathya, and soon it will come across the system. We have also committed for 100% adoption of UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage projects in all the geographies we operate in. Obviously, we can't go to places where we are not in operation. And very soon, we are going to launch our 100% business and conference under the banner of green meetings. And we're just in the process of finalizing the name for it. So I think all in all, this is our 2030 goals, which means within the next 7 years, this is what Indian Hotels is committed to do. part of our strategy, just one slide that we have committed and communicated to all our shareholders, to the analysts that track our company, is that by the end of 2025, we'll have a 300 plus hotels portfolio. We'll have a balanced growth of 50-50, which means 50% is owned or leased, 50% coming through management contracts or partnerships. Very strong partnerships, including in this room. We have Mr. Neotia sitting here. He's giving us 7 hotels. 7 hotels as he brings in the expertise of real estate, development, art, and class, and we bring in our operational excellence and our knowledge of hospitality and the F&B systems that we have. We used the time period of COVID and went to a zero net debt company. That's what we are. We commit to stay with zero debt, and our margins, to grow our margins to 33% plus. So historically, we are coming as a company which had between, let's say, 2009 till 2017, average margins of 13 to 15%. In a very good year was 15, in a bad year was 11, 12, 13%. Now, we increased in the aspiration 2022, that guidance to 25. That means 800 basis point increase. Now we are increasing it further to 33. This year, year to date, we stand at already 32.1. So we had committed to do 33 by the end of business cycle. We're already at 32.1 with the 9 months or the 3 quarters that have gone by. While doing all this, we are committed to the base of the pyramid, which is the core values. You know, these margins can be guided differently. The balanced growth can be guided differently. One thing that you cannot change every year is your core values. And our core values, what TAJ stands for, is replicated across all brands as trust, awareness, and joy. The 5 core values of Tata Group. And then our enablers. Our enablers is our culture, is our One Tata philosophy. That's how I came here. Because TVS said so, and we are part of the same ecosystem. Our commitment to excellence in whatever we do, our commitment to Pathya, as I just alluded to, our leveraging of digital, and an organization which is dynamic and continues to evolve. To have RRR won just a few days ago. This RRR is coming from 2017-2018, our aspiration 2022 strategy, which is reimagining our brandscape, restructuring our portfolio, and re-engineering our margins to remain the most iconic and the most profitable company from South Asia. And let me just end with the quote from our founder. We are the oldest operating company of Tata Group. I'm sorry, TVS, it's not Tata Steel. It is us from 1903. And we are celebrating 120 years this year. But Jamshedji said, in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder, but is in fact the very purpose of its existence. We continue to live by that guiding statement and guiding force, as do all other group companies. And yes, I do believe that the Amrit Kal for Indian tourism and the Amrit Kal for Indian hotels or for this sector has commenced. There will be turbulences on the way, but you know, we have all learned to adjust the sails when the winds are strong, and we will continue to do so. And our change in the business model, our change in our focus on the brandscape, and our change in thinking on our cost structure has become an enabler that this sector will continue to boom and sail through any kind of headwinds that we encounter. Thank you very much.
So much for those amazing insights. We'd like you to be kindly seated, and I'd request the President of the CMM, Mr. TVS Shenoy, to kindly join us on stage, and there's going to be a Q&A session happening, and of course questions are going to be open to the audience.
So can we give one big round of applause for his fabulous, fabulous speech we have just heard. And for all of those, so we are also going live on YouTube. So we got lots of questions also coming streaming in. as Anirban confirms to me. But we got about 10 minutes of time, and I'll maybe push in 3-4 queries and questions which we have got. But again, thank you very much for this session here. And maybe I'll pick up from where you ended with the quote of Jamshedji Tata, where enterprise, he talked so much about enterprise and how he gave back to the society. And about 3rd March, we just celebrated this month, the Founders' Day. So if you look back in 1903 and look back at when he would have conceptualized the Taj Hotel then, and that transformation has gone through, and you would have seen part of it during your career. So how do you see the transformation? We're talking all about transformation from heritage, 120-year-old.
So I think, just entire India, I think firstly, Taj Mahal Palace and Tower is not just another hotel. As you've heard, I've worked across the world and I've seen many properties. We call it the temple of hospitality. It's an amazing thing that was, somebody thought of it 120, it was opened 120 years ago. Somebody thought of it 130 years ago and did that kind of job. That is very exemplary. And the transformation is very simple. The transformation is that you're not limited to just comparing. I think India has moved on. India has to move on. And we have to stop comparing Taj with X, Taj with Y, Taj with Z. Taj is Taj and Taj has Tajness, and that's what it is. And everybody is good. There is enough space, and my take is that in the next 5 to 7 years, 3 of the top 10 hotel brands will be from India and not just us. That's the transformation.
And you did speak of transformation in your speech earlier and said during the course of COVID, how you all transformed, how the industry transformed. And perhaps I also heard you did a bit of research about the passion which you have for customers and customer centricity. And using the pandemic need of the customer and then coming out with a new product, and here is cumin. So could you walk us through how did it happen and how did it turn out to be a business model now?
We all read in a book, every crisis is an opportunity, but I think there comes a time to act upon it. So if there is a crisis, if there is a latent demand, and I would actually say even this was not my idea, just like Meals to Smile, serving the community was not my idea or coming from Indian hotels, but you also have to be a good listener to take an idea and execute upon it, right? So actually this idea came from Chairman of Tata Sons. And he called me one day and said, can you not bring Taj food to people's home? What we then evolved it into is something different. And the most important thing was it all happened in the highest period of lockdown. So this call was around end of April. And by 25th of May, we started doing meals on phone calls in the city of Mumbai. By 25th of June, we had the Cumin app. And the rest is history. Today, cumin is becoming a large ecosystem in QSR restaurants. We have 25 already open. Cuminization of ginger. All ginger hotels, all-day dining will operate under the banner of cumin. We are also getting into cumin shops and cumin QSRs in large corporate houses which have 5, 6, 7,000 employees on a campus. So I think one of that is getting launched, the first of it is getting launched on the 25th of March. And there are 5 more which will get added before end of April. So I think you just take the opportunity, run with it. And because it was not based on any upfront capital investment. See, we had the kitchens, we had the staff, we were paying salaries, we just used what we had. Only thing that got added was the packaging material and the variable cost of delivering the food. And at that time, it was very much appreciated because it was coming from us. So that trust of that, the tea of Taj, that trust was there that this is clean, this is delivered by the right people, right hygiene conditions. The packaging was beautiful. So everything which was, sustainable packaging. So I think it worked well for us, and today we are very proud to have cumin.
And for all of you who are connected online and also who are here, experienced cumin, and I'm sure that I've been a big fan of it myself. So hence this question came up front. Then I would come to the kind of segments of people who chase cumin.
See, more important on the segment or anything is the change in mindset. You're coming from a 100% Taj organization to different brands to suddenly start thinking home delivery. I think this is the most important inflection point, that you can do this too. Now, this doesn't mean being all things to all people. It's just using the infrastructure, because we don't have to build cloud kitchens. We have them. And over time, our kitchens are oversized. It's not easy to contract them either, because the way kitchen equipment came, I was talking to someone here this morning, the kitchen equipment needs and wants were very different 20, 30 years ago. The sizes of kitchens were different. And now that has changed. Just like at home, most of us would have an oven, which is also a grill, which is also a microwave. It's all in one. Before, we had different sets of machines. So I think it's just use of common sense.
The common sense is the most uncommon these days. And just connecting to what you said, one is making food, one is delivering food. And the transformation in the sector, you say Blinkit or Grofers, you have it delivered in 30 minutes, and then you have, the industry is changing and so is the taste kind of changing. I'll open it up a few questions from the audience if we have, yeah, yes, Swani?
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chhatwal, for this lovely session. My name is Shohini, and I come with an advertising background. My question to you is a question on paradox, which is, when I walk into a Taj hotel, I look for the Tajness and the Taj hospitality, even to the extent of expecting the regular manager to know my, choice of coffee. At the same time, with the transformation into a digital world, we're experiencing a lot of contactless experiences in hotels, where I do not, see anyone greeting me. I do not have a physical menu card. Okay, I can scan it and see it, but there is a distance. So how does one balance that?
It's a very good question. I think you should stay with Taj hotels and don't go to other hotels to experiment. So you will feel the Tajness, on a lighter note, I say. But it's a very fair point. See, the most important thing that we changed in our brandscape was we removed the Taj name wherever it was hurting. See, in a ginger positioning, you can even have a telephone opening your room door. But if you're going to Rambagh Palace or Umaid Bhavan Palace, you don't go with a mobile phone opening the door. You have to have that rose petal shower. When you arrive, you have all those dances, traditional dances of welcoming you, the thali and the aarti and everything that goes with it. I have not yet seen how one is going to do that digitally. If a screen is doing it for you, it's not the same experience. So we have not changed that business model. We have no intention of changing. It's not in our any strategic initiative. But as you go down the thing, there are people who go to a Ginger, or even in a, even in a Vivanta, because that's what it stands for, Bon Vivant. You need to have those co-working spaces. You need to have more interaction. Even if people are just sitting and working on the laptops or iPad or whatever, and just sitting across each other, not talking to each other, but that feeling of being in that community is very high. But that's not the case with Taj. That's not the case with luxury. For luxury, digital is an enabler to do things in a more efficient manner. As an example, on guest history. So you can have a lot of guest history which you leverage so that you know the needs and wants of that customer who's coming to you. What did they like last time? If they would like to pre-book, or if you want to upsell something which you think they might like. So that's it's a clever use of digital which is here to stay, and which is, I think, a very important going forward, including AI and ML.
And anybody else? Yeah.
Hello. So this is CS Pragya Junjunwala and I am a startup consultant. So it was very good to hear from you about the Prasad scheme. Since we are staying in West Bengal, I have a question that how do you see West Bengal in the growth trajectory of Prasad and Hriday scheme, which the government has launched?
How do I see the Western world?
West Bengal.
West Bengal. See, West Bengal, I just like to give this example. 3 years ago, just before COVID, we celebrated 30 years of Taj Bengal. And I made a statement, we'll have 25 hotels in West Bengal and the rest of East. We will use Kolkata as the base for it. From Taj Bengal to this Vivanta to opening Talkutir in October with Mr. Neotia to Rajkutir to maybe soon other destinations plus the Ginger plus very successful launch of Taj Chiakutir in Kurseong, right? I think whether it is a Prasad scheme, so I've done a little bit of deviation. I don't think it's that one scheme. On the slide I had 6 different pillars. So some things will contribute. Now, we have also signed a Ginger in Durgapur, right? That would be more like a spiritual thing. So there is all those pillars are there for us to leverage on, and the territory east of Kolkata is a very strong, high growth opportunity for the sector in the next decade. So whether it is going for, I don't know how to pronounce, I forgot, Kamakha temple in Guwahati, right? Or to other such places in the northeast, it's a great opportunity, and important is that infrastructure is getting built. So we are opening this year a hotel in Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh, a Vivanta in Tawang. Now if you fly to Guwahati, then if you drive to Tawang is 12 hours. Now that has to be shortened. So a friend of mine told me they opened the new highway and you can make it from Gurgaon to Jaipur now in 2 hours. It's like 5 lanes one side, 5 lanes another side. Said you have to come and see this and experience it. So I think as the infrastructure evolves, all the schemes, whether it's Prasad or it's Dekho Apna Desh or Incredible India or Heal in India, they will all start flourishing and will lead to our sustainable, profitable growth because we want growth. We want it to be profitable and we want it to be sustainable. So I think all these schemes, and that is the diversity of India. That's the heritage of India. So it's very unique. You get it from mountains to tea tourism, to medical tourism, to spiritual tourism, to such a big sea mass that we have and such big, mountain range that we have is very, very unique. And that's why I said the time has come for this sector to also start benefiting from that.
Yep.
Sir, on behalf of CMA, my heartiest compliments for a very amazing presentation. And we are very happy that you are increasing your footprints in Calcutta. I have a macro question. I totally share your bullishness on the Indian growth and we will become the 3rd largest economy. That is, we're knocking at that. But sir, in case something similar, God forbid, something like COVID again happens, how do you think, is a macro question, how do you think the tourism sector will be handling that?
See, something will keep happening. It is not a straight line. So there will be something. We don't know when and what. Something will come. But the resilience demonstrated by the sector, I don't think there is anything worse than COVID. When you're just put into a lockdown, enough fear is inculcated in people that if you go to a hotel or a restaurant, you'll get COVID. There's nothing worse than that. Maybe there is, but at least we don't know. We cannot imagine it today. So things like this will come. I would only recommend that people build enough reserves, have the right capital structure, and do the right things. Don't over leverage. Find the right balance. Whichever is suitable for whichever company or brand, that is for them to see. For us, that's how we have done it. And we have taken that very conscious decision not to take on any corporate debt. We were very high debt company till some years ago. And that's a conscious, as I said, decision, rather build even cash reserves. All this we communicate to our investors in Investor Capital Market Day and Investor Relations document. And also, if you're interested in more details, you will find that under the Ahvan 2025 full strategy on our website. But yes, things will happen which we don't know of, things will happen which we know of as we speak. I read in Times of India this morning, there are 3 banks in the US. 2 days ago it was 1 bank, yesterday it became 2 banks, now it's 3 banks. So are we getting anxious? Yes. If things start going bad, where do you stop? Discretionary spend. What sector do we fall under? A lot of it is discretionary, so psychologically that changes it. Having said that, that was the reason for change in the business model. So what we have today is we are benefiting from the operating leverage that we have because of our own portfolio, owned and leased. But at the same time, if we have 50% through management contracts, we have reduced the volatility in our business model, and we have increased the size of the cycle or the duration of the cyclicality in the business. So you go down later, but you also bounce back earlier. So I think that's all. Management's job is to find, mitigation factors which are needed against all possible risks. And that is one thing which we did, that we don't want to lose. We just don't want to collect hotels and count number of rooms all over the world. That's not our business model. We want to be most iconic, most profitable, and among the top market cap companies in the world with, ranging in as high as possible market capitalization per room, which means value creation, not dots on the map creation. Ideally you get both, but it's not that easily possible. Is okay.
I'm a professor of finance. We call something, there's an operating leverage and there's also something called a financial leverage. So basically when you talk of return on equity, if you increase the financial leverage, so your return on equity increases. So we are not talking of a very high debt equity ratio, but don't you think, sir, that a small debt will be actually adding to your return on equity?
So every book, I'm glad you said you're a finance professor, I would not have known. Every corporate finance book starts with the value of dollar in hand today is worth more than the value of dollar tomorrow, right? And the right use of debt increases the net present value of the company, right? Sorry for all those who are not finance driven people. But when you are coming from the background like we are coming and things keep happening, which are beyond your circle of control, till you don't reach that stabilization phase, it's not good to take on corporate level of debt. If you want to take debt, let's say 30, 40% or even 50 on individual asset, that's a different thing, because then you have not overburdened the asset with the debt. If you have all your costs well taken care of. And I said 50% owned and leased. Our model for Ginger going forward is more leased. And as you would appreciate, lease is as good as being asset heavy, right? So whether it's an operating lease and it's capitalized or not capitalized, but it's still it's not a management contract driven model. So finding that right capital structure is the right thing, but we would not want to take on risks like we have had in the past, because as we said just now, something happens and something keeps happening. So, and the first sector that gets hit is us. So we are not risk averse, but we don't want to add those risks in the short term.
Maybe a last couple of questions before we close. Maybe a couple of pointers here.
I just want to ask about sustainability. Taj and of course the Tata Group is well known for their commitment to sustainability. But you as a group, are you taking up the issue of responsible tourism and campaigning for it in the industry as a whole?
Yes, I think the sector is very strong on responsible and sustainable tourism. As I said, certain things you can do at a company level, certain things you do at a Hotel Association of India level, certain things as CII Tourism Committee or FICCI or, all these associations that we have. I was last week in Goa and I saw how nicely all the team in Holiday Village was first thing in the morning, 8:30, I saw them was cleaning the beach. This is an important activity. It's not our beach, it's a public beach. So we do the same in Fisherman's Cove in, down in South or at the Exotica in Goa or other places, as one example. But more importantly, look at this Andaman Havelock. The whole hotel was built without cutting down one single tree. You have trees going through the rooms also because that was a part of preserving those pristine beaches and that kind of tourism. So I think it's up to each company, but I think we are very well positioned to do one biggest thing that the sector can eliminate is plastic. That's the smallest thing which we have to start from is eliminate plastic because that creates a lot of garbage and that garbage doesn't go away. It sits from right to left to some other place. And I think a lot of good, responsible brands in the sector, they are all leading by example.
Thank you. Maybe last couple of questions on which you're very passionate about brands and a branded house versus the house of brands. And I heard you say about Taj Selections, Vivanta, Ginger, Taj Sats, Ama Stays and Trails, and then Cumin. Could you walk us through what are the genesis of each of these brands? And I know you're very fussy about each brand, the way it looks and feels.
I'm not fussy. I just think we should have clear communication in advertising world or in marketing world. We should the easy way out is to take your strongest brand and attach it to the brands which are in infancy phase or growth phase, so your revenue increases. But over long term, you damage the brand, which is really the core business. Even today, 70% of our profitability comes from Taj. So most important thing is not only to protect Taj because it belongs to us, because it's also the crown jewel of the nation. So you can't put a little bit Vivanta by Taj and then you put by Taj in fuchsia red when Taj's color is gold. So there are things that get done. I just saw somebody trying to promote us on some award. I just saw on social media and it's written the Taj in blue color. Now somebody makes it blue, somebody makes it fuchsia red. So the brand goes all over the place. That's how you don't make it to top global brands. If you're going to be a top nation, top 5, you also need brands from the country which are playing on that global field. And the gateway, how our people are, so conveniently what was TGH, the Gateway Hotel, became Taj Gateway Hotel. So some people carved it on a stone, that you are entering not a gateway, you're entering Taj. So there are things like this which are irritants, and we didn't touch the Taj brand at all in the last 5 years. We only added some new F&B concepts, we did some other things because what doesn't need to get fixed, don't fix it. It's something special and unique, so leave it the way it is. And Ginger, nobody associates Ginger with Taj because never there was any connotation of Taj attached to Ginger. Right? Even our own people say, I'm responsible for 6 hotels plus 4 Ginger. So in their mind, that is something that is we're trying to bridge that gap, that Ginger and the other 6 that you're talking about is you're responsible for 10 hotels and not for 6 plus 4. So why is that there? Because Ginger never was having any Taj connotation. And I think that's very important. Each brand has to stand on its own feet. Don't provide it crutches because it'll never learn how to walk or run. That's my philosophy. However, and having said that, a branded house also works if your main brand is the mega brand. But then you should not stretch it too far. India being a heterogeneous country and the needs and wants being very different in different segments, that would have had an impact on our scaling. So if you want to scale, your business, and if you want to stay relevant over longer period, everything should not be related to your mainstream brand.
On that note of
I'm so sorry, I just got one question. Mr.
you
Chhatwal,
have to
thank you
slip
so
it in
much.
quick, yeah.
Thank you so much for coming down here. And I must tell you, I take this pride and honor that I'm an ex-IHCL employee. I used to work with Vivanta by Taj Dwarka, New Delhi. And currently I'm a professor of a college. I'm from Future Institute of Engineering and Management, Kolkata. Sir, I just want to ask you one question. I have worked with this industry. It's a glamorous industry. But a few things that I have noticed, that huge working hours as well as very low packages for freshers and all. How IHCL is now viewing and having some strategies to improve this thing, sir?
See, this is a very important thing, that a point that you raise. I wish more people will stand up and would have told this to people who don't give us certain incentives, that long working hours, 24/7, 365 days, and low paid, right? But highest opportunity to skill very fast, because it's not some kind of a high-tech thing that you have to learn. IHCL is working on it. We went from 4 off days to 6 and is going now to 8. We have a lot of schemes, for all the staff, from helping the women in their, the maternity and other, those IVF programs, to many other initiatives that we are launching. But we are a little bit blessed because we are a part of an ecosystem that works that way, right? The Tata Group functions that way. And the time has come also to change that significantly in the hospitality sector. If that change will not happen, the talent that already left this sector during 2 years of COVID, because people were furloughed, or we didn't do much any of that, but these terms, I heard it also for the first time in my life. Not only you're not able to get them back, or attract others to the industry, whatever you have, will start losing that too. So I think as responsible growth leaders, it is our job to nurture talent and also provide the right amount of compensation and right opportunities for people to have that growth.
Thank you for the question, and only I would maybe add on. If one is passionate and you stay connected to it, the world has funny ways to give it to you back in multiple times a few years later. When you connect the dots, one alone knows. But stay connected. I think this business can only run with passion. That's the core of the heart. There's something which, without passion, this industry just cannot survive.
And the second is hard work.
And of course, the hard work.
24/7. Christmas, Diwali, New Year, you are working.
Yeah. What is a holiday for us is work for the hospitality industry. On that note, Mr. Chhatwal, thank you so much for being with us. Any parting thoughts that you'd like to leave to all the members and all who are connected here?
Yeah. Take time for yourself, families, and take short, mid, or long breaks, and preferably do it with our ecosystem. And if you do it in a palace, don't accept digital check-in, and elsewhere embrace and enjoy what we have to offer.
On that note of enjoy what we have to offer, thank you, Mr. Chhatwal. Wonderful listening to you and full of gratitude for being here.
Thank you.
So we'd like you to be on stage. And ladies and gentlemen, Calcutta is a city of joy, and whenever we shower, the loud noise, it should sound like Eden Gardens. So I think Mr. Chhatwal truly deserves a big hand for this amazing insight today. And now I request Mr. T.V.S. Shenoy, the president of CMA, to kindly felicitate our guest of honor, I would say, who had amazing insight into the hospitality industry today. And of course, Taj, as we say, not the tea way, but wa Taj always. The heart of the city is in your hand to some way or another. So thank you so much.
I was just told by Tata Steel, so the new ad could be we also make bridges. We built bridges, sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Shenoy. Thank you, Mr. Chhatwal. It was really, really an amazing start off to this amazing summit. And I would also like to thank our principal sponsor, Tata's, of course, an association with the Telegraph, always being there. Co-sponsor, CESE, associate sponsor, Cafe I Can Fly, knowledge partner, GIS, supported by Indian Power, and radio partner, 91.9 Friends FM. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to get on with the next part of this amazing summit. And of course, the next session is going to be sustainability at the heart of hospitality. We have two amazing personalities who are going to be joining us on stage shortly for this amazing session. And of course, I'd like to introduce our first gentleman who needs actually no introduction, because he's known not just for his hospitality, he's known just not for the amazing properties he has, but he's known for a man who speaks from his heart. An amazing personality in his own right. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Harshavardhan Neotia is an entrepreneur and presently the chairman of the Ambuja Neotia Group. The group operates across 4 business verticals: real estate, hospitality, healthcare, and education. Headquartered in Kolkata, the group's projects are mostly located in eastern India. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly put your hands together for Mr. Harshavardhan Neotia. So, it's such a pleasure to have you with us. And ladies and gentlemen, the next gentleman is going to be joining us on stage. Another amazing gentleman. Very humble at heart, but totally go-getting. And whenever I see him, or I look at him, I always say he's a fashion statement. Because the way he comes forward with all the energies. Yes, a chartered accountant for over 30 years of entrepreneurial experience in India and abroad, the founder and the chief mentor of the Indie Smart Group worldwide, which among others consists of iconic International Institute of Hotel Management, that's the IIHM, which is today regarded as one of the key leaders in the field of international hospitality management education in India. Dr. Subarno Bose is inaugurately the country's best known hospitality educator with the presence of his institutions, major brands like IIHM and IIM at Calcutta, Delhi, Goa, Bangkok, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, Jaipur, Hyderabad, Pune, Uzbekistan, London, the UK. The Indie Smart Group also owns 2 luxury hotels, one in Calcutta's Swanky Salt Lake sector and the other in South Goa. You know, I can carry on. But ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dr. Subarno Bose. Now, without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, in conversation, sustainability at the heart of hospitality. And we are going to be hearing some iconic thoughts.
Very good morning to everybody. I was telling to Mr. Neotia after what we heard from Mr. Chhatwal, we should all go for a coffee break actually. There was no need to carry on because the way he's articulated, the way he said, and he almost touched everything that we thought we'll do. So we have a little bit of a weak conversation, but once again, very big thank you, Mr. Chhatwal. Calcutta don't get too often speakers like you who have been so articulate, so clear in the vision, and actually carrying a huge company from minus to plus, and COVID or no COVID. I mean, I've been in industry for 32 years now, and so proud of you and what you have achieved, not just for the Taj or the Tatars, but for the country. I think you are a real inspiration for all the hospitality students of today and tomorrow. So on that note, I'll ask my good friend, Mr. Neotia, to start up the conversation.
So I think the topic today, on a lighter note, I want to say that Puneet Bhai has given me a task of balancing IHCL imbalance. He wants more hotels on the management front, and that's really the job he has entrusted to me, to build hotels and keep giving him a whole regular supply of them, so that he can balance that 50-50 model that he's looking for. And I've assured him of an adequate support to that. Of course, there are lots of people supporting that. But nevertheless, I think our conversation today is about sustainability. So would you like to share your thoughts?
Yes, of course. We at IIHM and at the IndiSmart are very, very passionate about sustainability much before the word became very fashionable. And for last 10 years, we've been working on different format. So, but then what we have been seeing in the COVID and with the hospitality industry, the tourism industry, Mr. Kapoor spoke about responsible tourism. I think sustainability like climate change and things like that. But now, I think COVID have taught us the bitter truth that you need sustainability for sustained growth, for sustained existence, and for profit. I think when we talk about sustainability, let me put it in the context a little bit. Generally, there are three kinds of sustainability we are accosted. Number one is the environmental one, which is about climate change, which is about life underwater. And then the second one, which I think is most important for the tourism industry, for the hospitality industry, for the industry, that service sector as well, is the social sustainability. I think Mr. Chhatwal spoke about that very, very lucidly, about Taj coming up in a time when nobody came and then everybody followed in the COVID time. That social sustainability, I think, is now the heart and soul of any hospitality operations. It's about social responsibilities. It's about looking after your people. It's about supporting your people when they need it. It's about flexible working hours. Hard work, yes, but flexible working hours. It's about looking at your people not just as employees, but as associates and partners. Very important. And also the local community. You live in a local community. I always tell my friends in the industry that when there is a big banquet in your hotel and you earn a lot of money, which is very good, but there are about 1,000 cars coming, and the people living across the road, they are actually harassed. They cannot park their own car. It's great that you are making money, but what are you doing for them? And of course, we have got the issues of the music, the sound, which is very, very prevalent. So we need to go and neutralize this inconvenience which we cause for our profitability to the local community where we stay. Whether it's about supporting it, whether it's about doing some work for them, cleaning. Mr. Chhatwal gave the example of the Taj Holiday Village in Goa, cleaning the beach. We can go and clean the place. We can do hundreds of things. So that, I think, is very important part of the social sustainability. And the third one is the economic sustainability, where, of course, we know that we have a CSR tax now. A part of the profit goes to the CSR fund as per the Indian Income Tax Act. ESG is something, again, is now very important. There are committees in ESG. ESG has now become actually very serious. There was time when ESG was there, existing, not a name was there, but yes, ESG is now something that
the companies are taking seriously and the stakeholders are taking seriously. I know people who go and choose hotels based on their sustainability policies, whether they are ESG compliant or not. So I think things are changing more in the West, but very much in India as well. So in this context, I think it's very important for us to understand that sustainability is not a byproduct of running the business. It's as much important as running the business in the mainstream.
So I would just like to add to what Subarno mentioned about sustainability, and I would like to quote the example of a company that I think has done quite remarkable work in this area, and that is a company called Soneva. Of course, it operates in an uber luxury kind of space, and many of the things that they can do possibly are not easy to do in a city context, because they've experimented with ideas on an island. But nevertheless, I think there are some very interesting learnings. For instance, the entire wood that they use in the project are wood which is from regenerative trees. They won't use any other wood. The entire fabric that is used is 100% biodegradable, so there is no synthetic mixed in the fabric. There's 100% solar generation and wind generation for their power. They have no connection to the grid. They grow most of their vegetables, and they only source food which is, I would think 95% of the food they source is even produced organically. There are various other initiatives. They encourage you to walk bare feet. If you take a room, I've been to one of their hotels. It's about 2,500 square feet each room. I mean, it's like a bungalow actually. But the air-conditioned portion is 250 square feet. The rest is all non-air-conditioned. So it's just a small glass cubicle, which is your bedroom, essentially with a chair and a desk and the bed, which is air-conditioned. The rest is all non-air-conditioned. It gives you large lounging spaces, but all non-air-conditioned. There are various things that they have done there, which is to take sustainability and sort of regeneration to a new level. So there are examples. Of course, those examples, we won't have that much of terrace space in any multi-story hotel to do 100% solar, or we don't have many of these possibilities. In cities, you can't have non-air-conditioned spaces. There's just too much of dust and noise around. So these are not applicable in every context, but I think it's certainly an inspirational model for resorts in sort of faraway destinations. Some of those ideas can certainly be implemented.
I think absolutely. I think I still remember hotels in huge corridors, and there must be about 500 bulbs up there with no human being in the afternoon. We should be using a lot of this small, cheap technology where you can just get the lights as you go in. It's very interesting. We at IHM has been doing a lot of things which are very small. Like for example, it'd be quite interesting for a lot of people out here, like the used tea leaves. Like when we have the tea, what we do with the used tea leaf? We put it back into the system. Put it back in the plumbing zone. So with this used tea leaves and the used coffee beans, we are doing some absolutely incredible cookies. And in fact, we are supplying that cookies to the old age homes, so that we are also doing the sustainability SDG goal number 2, which is no poverty. Eggshells, used eggshell. We all have the eggs, whether it's the boiled egg or omelette. So what you do after the egg is used, we put it back again in the pipeline. Again it goes and jams and does all kinds of difficulty. And we're talking about millions of the eggshell every day. If you talk about one hotel like this, I'm sure huge. So with this eggshell, what we're doing is that we are not putting it down on the drains. We are collecting the eggshells. We are putting it in a mixture. We're putting some water and a couple of other things, and we are getting a fantastic product from the mixture, which we are using in making cake. And believe me, it's a fantastic cake. It's so tasty. So using the eggshell, we are using the product, and importantly, we are not putting it onto the pollution environment. So there are hundreds of small things which we can do at home, like the eggshell can be used in putting in the garden. It's very good for your plants actually. So I think it's not about just being hotels or tourism, even at a micro level we can do that. But when we are talking about huge number of production, I think sustainable practices are not limited to only big things. There are small things which Mr. Neotia said right now, we can do, and I think we should do, because sometimes I see after 10 p.m. there are some big hotels in some big cities with possibly 100,000 lights on. So I don't know whether we need so much of lights on in a country where a lot of places we don't have electricity. So I think sustainability is something that should be a part of our lifestyle, part of our mindset, and that we should be teaching to our children. It's very important.
So since Subarno, you are here, and Mr. Chhatwal mentioned in his presentation about skilling 1 lakh people in the course of the next few years, and this is your forte, it's your domain. He's entering an area which he shouldn't be doing that, but nevertheless, I think the country needs a lot of hands in the hospitality space. Would you like to share a little bit of your experience on what is missing? Why are students or younger people not so much interested? Of course, COVID was a huge setback, but generally because of these long hours of work and low pay, etc., is there a general disenchantment for younger people to join the hospitality?
I think our industry is for the people, by the people, of the people. In spite of all the chandeliers and everything else, it's actually about the people. People are in the heart of our business, and we all understand that. So how important are the people, and what's the kind of budget we have got for the people? We need to balance that, right? Now, there are obviously times when it was very different. Now the students of the hospitality are there. In fact, some of the students are here in college actually, and they are very disenchanted by the pay. We all know that we need long hours, hard work, we need to be good in communication, preferably smart looking, and I'll pay you peanuts. This can't work for a very long time. This passion, very, very fancy words. One of my, in fact, student told me last year, an Uber driver gets 24,000. And a particular 5-star hotel was offering me 14,000. Why should I join? And I said, don't join. After 6 months, he sent me a message that I am now in San Francisco working in a restaurant and I'm earning a very good money. So what we're doing is that, and Mr. Chhatwal did mention that, we are losing our talent not to the other hotels, but to the other industry. Our competitor is not other hotels. Our competitor is other industry. We had a campus interview recently from Geo Convention Center in Mumbai, in Mr. Chhatwal's hometown. And the kind of money we are paying is almost 4 times, with an accommodation in a city like Mumbai and a flight ticket for interviews. These are the things that is actually getting the youth to go and join industry which are not hotels or hospitality per se. It's hospitality, of course, it's not hotel per se. I think skilling is very important in this respect. So what we also have started now, we are opening four training centers per month. So we're doing 50 in 1 year. So 2 years we're having 100 centers. where we are doing the skill training along with the THSC and NSDC, where also we are going to have a lot of students doing 3 months to 6 months program and 1 year program on skill. So that's a different thing. But I think in order to keep the talent in the right place, and India needs a lot of talent to be the partner of the growth story of the hospital industry. We need to understand that if we have to really grow, we need people who can propel the growth. And we need to really look after them, A, the pay, B, the work-life balance. Nowadays, a lot of hotels, of course, are doing 5 days a week or at least 6 days a month, kind of 6 holidays a month kind of a thing. But we need to have these young people coming with a different kind of aspiration. And we need to actually do something so that their aspirations are protected. Otherwise, we will not get the right people at the best hotels in the country. We need to work on that.
So I think we have run out of time. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It was nice. Do you want to have some last word?
No, I think as I just want to repeat that we're in such a fascinating industry. Hospitality is something which is such a incredibly passionate industry. It's a huge satisfaction of working. And this industry, the way it's grown post-COVID, I think even we couldn't believe the kind of growth which we have seen. Even I still remember Mr. Chhatwal speaking in one of the seminars in the COVID time that we're now going through just existing and then survival and then thrival. I still remember the word survival and thrival which he used. And I think he predicted it so right. We had survived and we have thrived, and now we are thriving more than possibly we can handle it. So while growth is great, growth is fantastic, we need to also see that a growth is managed well. Otherwise, it can become a deterrent. And I think this is such a great story for the entire Indian economy. Not just about the hotel industry, but about the entire tourism industry. I think more and more people should come and join the hospitality industry and be part of this success of the growth story.
Check. Well, it happens sometimes. It's a normal course of problems which sometimes happen. We do it in a big way. Sometimes even when you're on a radio station, my mic goes off and I'm talking. So these issues happen. But thank you so much, sirs. It was really enthralling. And come on, let's have some energy, ladies and gentlemen. And I'd like to call it. Screen all the way from Sri Lanka. We have an amazing gentleman joining us, and of course, transformation in hospitality and services sector in Sri Lanka. He is none other than Mr. Malik J. Fernando, who is the founder and managing director of Resplendent Ceylon Limited. Yes, the pioneer Sri Lankan luxury hotel brand, collection of intimate resorts offer the discriminating traveler a remarkable circuit across Sri Lanka with a range of authentic experiences while contributing towards local communities and the environment, the MJF Foundation and Wilmar Conservation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, he is already there with us online, and a warm welcome to Mr. Malik J. Fernando. Sir, we're so happy to join us. And of course, over to you on the transformation in hospitality and services sector in Sri Lanka. Mr. Malik J. Fernando.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Just give us a little time. The voice was not coming. We just checked it out.
How is it now? Can you hear me? How is it now? Can you hear?
Thank you so much. Over to you. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. My apologies. I'm just about to hop on a flight. So I'm dressed very casually. I'm delighted to be speaking to such an august group as the Calcutta Management Association. I have to thank TVS, who I met in Colombo a couple of weeks ago when Tata Steel had an event here, an off-site, and I met him for a cup of tea through an introduction of a mutual friend. And soon after that, he asked me to speak. So there's no such thing as a free cup of tea, but I am delighted to be speaking to you. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. From my study of history, Calcutta is the most important cultural and commercial city in India, and I'm delighted to be speaking to you on this topic, which frankly is relatively new to me as well, because you're probably wondering why someone who grows and sells tea, Dilma tea in this case, which was started by my father Merrill, why I am speaking about tourism. Because the fact is, and I heard the previous speaker speaking about passion. For me, tourism is a very beautiful, wonderful, people-centric business. And certain countries have a huge amount of comparative advantage in this. And I will speak briefly about how Sri Lanka is being transformed in terms of tourism and the kind of tourism that we are now pursuing. I mean, travel tourism was the most affected by COVID. I mean, before COVID, 10% of global GDP was related to travel and tourism. So I would think it's the most important industry in the world and certainly the largest employer. So it is appropriate that the CMA is having this event at this point. Tourism in Sri Lanka is nothing new. It started in the 1960s, late 60s, when it was still Ceylon. And the government went on a master plan with Geoffrey Bawa, who's a well-known architect who invented tropical modernism. And they created some resorts around Bentota and other parts to start tourism well before the rest of Asia, before Thailand, certainly before the Maldives and Southeast Asia. Unfortunately, we had the conflict, the long drawn-out conflict that started in the 80s. So tourism in Sri Lanka was stillborn literally till the conflict ended in 2009. And since then, there has been a dramatic growth, even though we've had several setbacks, as you know. First, we had the Easter attacks, and we came back from that quite strongly, and then we all suffered COVID. And then most recently, the economic crisis, which hit the global headlines. Unfortunately, in India, it was given a more negative portrayal than in other parts, largely because of our tilt towards China. So we got caught in this geopolitical game, and Sri Lanka was highlighted as a case of what happens when you get too close to China. And we got particularly bad media in India. But I will tell you that those of you who visited, the situation is entirely back to normal since July of last year, so almost 9 months. And tourism is fully back to normal now for well over a year. So in terms of Sri Lanka, before I talk specifics, I don't know the perception that most of you would have of Sri Lanka. If you've been, you know the correct position, but there is a perception that Sri Lanka is sort of cheap and cheerful and there's nothing particularly distinctive. But in fact, we offer a continent's worth of attractions in a very small landmass. It's probably the size of Calcutta, probably in terms of population. Our population is about 20 million. And in a small area that is 200 kilometers across and 400 north to south, we have about 7 or 8 different ecosystems. The amazing beaches, the cultural triangle with the 2,000-year-old civilization, the best wildlife outside Africa, great surfing, and such a diversity, including 8 World Heritage Sites. So when I first came to India and started pitching my resorts, I received very skeptical, nods from travel agents saying, how can Sri Lanka be premium? How can it be upscale? Because the perception of Sri Lanka was, as I said, cheap and cheerful. But we kind of were flag bearers through my company, and there are many other companies here, emulating global trends to go towards boutique properties, more sustainable properties in more pristine off-grid areas. So if I may, I'm just going to switch over to a screen share. I hope this works, to a quick presentation. And here we go, present. Good. Okay, so I hope you can all see that. So, I mean, this is the teardrop just 20 kilometers off your southern coast. And what I've highlighted are the resorts that we have, currently 5 of them. And these are the typical vistas. So this is tea country, where Dilma comes from, the world's finest black tea. You would argue that the Darjeelings and Assams are also very good. They are exceptional. So I would say our 3 regions, Darjeeling, Assam, Ceylon, grow the best black tea in the world. And this is where, because I overlooked the tea plantations for Dilma, I saw these old historic British tea planters bungalows. And I thought, my goodness, if only we could open this up for tourism and to transport our travelers to living like, historic tea plantation owners in the 1920s. And that is my vision for tourism, which is developing very nicely in Sri Lanka. I'll tell you more about it shortly. So in Sri Lanka, you have such a diversity of attractions. We're very close to India. We're probably no more than 2 to 3 hours from Kolkata and Mumbai and so on. And when you arrive here, although it's so close, it blows your mind in terms of the diversity that you see in a small area. So this is the origin of Dilma. That's my father, Merrill, in the middle, my brother Dilhan and myself. So the brand name Dilma was coined from Dilhan and Malik. So it's almost like a third sibling. And the resorts that we operate here in Sri Lanka, the first 3, we call them the Tea-Sea Safari Journey. 3 extraordinary resorts. All 3 are members of Relais Chateau, which is a very prestigious French association of family-owned and managed restaurants. They have about 500 Michelin stars for culinary perfection within their network. So to be in this collection, you have to be a boutique property, and you have to be family-owned and managed. So I'm proud to say that our 3 properties, Cape Veligama, Wild Coast, and Tea Trails, all 3 of them are the only properties in Relais. Sri Lanka has got a lot of media, particularly for the new openings. 2 new properties that we opened a couple of months ago in the Financial Times UK and Vanity Fair and so on. Because when you're positioning a destination, you need consumer communication. You can't necessarily just work through the OTAs and the tour operators. You need to reach out directly to consumers through clever PR campaigns and through digital marketing. And that's something that we focus on very much. So Ceylon Tea Trails, which is the first resort we opened, is in the center of the tea country. You arrive by float plane. It's only 20 minutes from the international airport, or it's 4 hours by road. Here you have the 5 colonial tea planters bungalows, all dating from the 1890s, 1900s. You trek or you mountain bike between them. They're between 2 and 15 kilometers apart. You get amazing vistas. They're all very, very different in design. Each bungalow has 5 or 6 rooms. For me, tourism, small is beautiful. I mean, there's room for the big giants with 600 rooms, but for me, anything over 30, 40, 50 rooms is not so interesting. And that is a model that Amman Resort started, because boutique, for me, for leisure, is where you get premium pricing. And if you are located in pristine off-grid locations, particularly after COVID, there is a demand for people to go off-grid. Fresh air, peace, wellness, and that's something which the transformation of Sri Lanka tourism, which is my topic today, is heading. It's a very different product from what we had in the 80s and 90s, which were the bigger properties where people go around by bus and do a tour and spend one night or 2 nights. Here, the properties become destinations, and we have so many idyllic locations, whether it's in the mountains, whether it's in the national parks, whether it's by the beach, where you can have a very beautiful property, ideally something that's restored as opposed to newly built. So these are some vistas from tea trails. Imagine you're in that pool at the top, and then you look down and there's like a little fly, which is the float plane landing to take you to the next resort. Also, our whole journey, that's how we pitch it. Tea, sea, safari. So first you come to the tea country, then you go to the safari lodge, then you go to the beach. So it's actually a complete circuit. So you actually keep travelers within your group, but that I think is easier done when the properties are individually named rather than branded. So travelers feel that it's an eclectic selection of properties. These are some of the things we do. We have a huge amount of Highland leopard up at tea trails, and these animals are massive, much larger than the animals in the national parks in the lowlands. And we have an 18-kilometer corridor that we've partnered with the neighboring estates to protect and nurture these animals. Next on our journey, this is Wild Coast Tented Lodge. This won so many design awards. This is in Yala National Park. It's a 30-minute flight from Ceylon Tea Trails, and here you're in a different ecosystem altogether. You have 28 so-called cocoon tents, and these are really funky. It's almost like an airship that's landed in the middle of the jungle. And this is the kind of transformation that tourism in Sri Lanka is heading towards, and in many other destinations, and even in India. I see many of my friends who've opened boutique lodges. There was a beautiful one which I read about in Gir National Park in Gujarat, I believe. So this is, for me, the trend where owners follow the passion. We heard the word passion from the previous speakers as well, because in travel, passion, particularly at the higher end, is what drives your product. The interiors at Wild Coast Tented Lodge are spectacular. It's almost like you're on the Orient Express train. A lot of brass, a lot of copper, a lot of leather. So as you continue your journey from Wild Coast, you come to Cape Veligama. Now, this is a phenomenal beach resort in the heart of the Southern Riviera in Veligama near Galle. So in fact, Vogue India, Vogue magazine are doing a cover shoot at Cape Veligama next month. So this has got a huge amount of accolades globally, including in the Indian media. It's the best coastal beach property. The smallest villa is 130 square meters, so they're pretty massive. But it's not about the hardware. It's about the service, the ambience, the cuisine, the vistas, and the fact that you're totally cut away. Now, I've shown you 3 images, all of Sri Lanka, all within 30 minutes float plane flight or 3-4 hours by road. But you see how different they are. So this is really how the country is being transformed towards more boutique properties away from the capital city, with sort of very pristine backgrounds, whether it is coastal, whether it's safari and so on. So whale watching, at the bottom left, you see the boat on which you go on a whale safari. We have a permanent colony of blue whale just off our shore. And then we have the largest ocean mammal and the largest land mammal, the Asian elephant, and are of each other. So that's another unique feature of Sri Lanka. Last month, we opened Reverie, which is a new brand, focusing on more intimate, laid-back properties where it's not so formal. You can eat whenever you want. It's a lot more relaxed. It's at a lower price point. The earlier properties are at around $1,000 to $1,200 per night for 2 people. and fully inclusive. And at Reverie, it's more like 600, 700, which is great value considering what the other Indian Ocean islands are charging. This is Ahube, and this is Khayyam House. And both are very small, between 13 and 9 rooms. This is something we're opening up in the Cultural Triangle, Sigiriya, which is where we have our 2,000-year-old civilization. These are a whole bunch of tree houses at 30 to 40 meters above the ground at the tree canopy level. I'm excited about this. This will open next year. Now, getting back to, again, we heard about sustainability. You've got to tie everything back to a mission, to a philosophy. So our philosophy, which is, you know, at the higher end, you need to have a mission. You can't just say, look, this is me, all the money goes into my pocket. We are the largest private sector charity, I would say, not only in Sri Lanka, but in the region. 15% of our earnings goes towards good works through the MJF Foundation and Dilma Conservation. And this is a trend you're seeing not only in Sri Lanka, but elsewhere, where you take on a passion which also drives your guests. So we have over 70 projects island-wide, from chefs, the tea makers' kids, tea pickers' kids being trained as chefs, climate research station, and so on. These are some of our initiatives. When you talk of boutique properties, particularly the non-global brands, Indian brands, Sri Lankan brands, we invest back in the community. When you work with some of the global brands, you find that, you know, it's private equity owned, all the money gets swept out to wherever they are based in. So I really feel that the trend now is for domestic Indian, Sri Lankan regional brands to showcase their destinations, rather than the typical model of foreign brands coming in, creating their brands. And then you find that, you know, you obviously have developers who own the property, but there isn't that connectivity as much to the local community as if the brand was owned by citizens and corporates from that country. As I wrap up, I don't want to take too long. The message I want to get across is that Sri Lanka is transforming to the higher end. We've had a perception problem because of the issues, but, you know, people who come and the media that you see, we get a lot of coverage, as I said, from Vogue, Condé Nast Traveler India. People who've been here, they know the ground situation, and they are our biggest ambassadors. There is a significant trend towards sustainability, going off grid, particularly with the increase in energy costs. We have one resort that's almost entirely off grid, Cape Veligama. We're looking at a battery powered off grid solution, because I think that is the future in terms of going carbon neutral or even carbon positive, ideally. And I think we have to go beyond sustainability in what we do as hoteliers and look at regeneration, because we've gone beyond the tipping point in terms of climate change. So now we need to regenerate habitats and so on. So I think sustainability, the word is now moving towards regeneration. What can we do to grow back? And that's something which, for example, at Wild Coast Tented Lodge, all our water comes from the sea, it's desalinated, and we recycle all our water, and it goes into ponds to feed the elephants and the leopard and the wild boar and the monkeys who support, who live around our resort. We also use an amazing piece of software called Viva, which is a sustainability dashboard where we feed in all our data. A lot of it is automated, and we see the dashboards periodically and see how we are tracking. So that's it from me. I can help you get back on track, and I'm happy if there are any questions to answer anything, either in the chat or verbally.
Thank you, Ms. Maliki. It's really, really a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ms. Maliki that residents know, and I would like to call on Mr. T.V. Shenoy to kindly thank Ms. Maliki for this amazing, engaging, and interactive talk he gave on how business is going on in Sri Lanka. Mr. T.V. Shenoy, please.
Malik, just checking, can you hear me and see me as well?
Sorry, I can't hear you that clearly, TVS.
I'll try, just because of the bandwidth, I guess. But Malik, thank you so much. And for all of you who have been here and seen the fabulous presentations and amazing photographs, I think the next destination is definitely Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka on my mind, I guess. Malik, and hopefully $1,000, a room night stay might be a little heavy on the purse. You'll offer some kind of special prizes to the CMA patrons.
TVS, you have to look at your latest net profit. That's peanuts.
Yeah, thank you, Malik. But I pick up a few words, and I had the pleasure of being with Mr. Malik last month when I was in Sri Lanka there. And for all of you who watch Sri Lanka cricket, and you see the Dilma team, you would have seen the Dilma part of the ads, the tea, etc. So Dilma is interested in the names of sons. So Dil and Ma sons for Malik Fernando, and we have him here who's speaking here. So a wonderful a torchbearer for Sri Lanka, a leading light there. And let me pick up a few words which Malik you just talked about. To have a mission and philosophy. Many stories to tell. Sri Lanka is transforming into a higher end scene from $100 a room night to over $1,000 a room night. We've been there and done that. And beyond the tipping point of sustainability of the generation. Malik, thank you for being a fabulous, fabulous speech. And really gratitude for coming and sharing with us. I'm sure you have kindled a little of Sri Lanka in everybody's mind, and hopefully we all will make our next travel plan to Sri Lanka there. Thank you again, Malik.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
From India, and lots of love to Sri Lanka. And have a safe flight. I believe you're taking a flight now, and hope to safe travel, sir. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. All the very best. Thank you, TVS. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a short break for networking and tea and coffee. We request all of you all to join us within 20 minutes. So it's time to engage and interact with each other. And within 20 minutes, we'll be back here for some more amazing engagement. Thank you so much. At this beautiful Calcutta Management Summit. And it's been an enthralling morning, a lot of learning, a lot of understanding about the hospitality sector and how things work. And when we go back, we know that the pandemic did hit every one of us, but how the hospitality sector bounced back. Today, it's up on that level. And each one of us do have a memory of what we went through in the period of 2.5 years. But I really do appreciate the go-getting attitude of the hospitality sector. They did not stop even while the lockdown was on. They continued to reach out, continued to provide support, continued to help. I'd just like to share a small story which happened with me on radio. I remember as a radio station, we took upon ourselves. It was, I think, 22nd of March or 23rd, the lockdown was declared. So I got my team together and we said that, I said, guys, we have options. Either we work out of home, we record and send the links and the show goes on, or we go live. My entire team said, we will go live. And the beginning of the lockdown, right till the end of the lockdown, we were broadcasting live from the studios. RJs, the team was coming every day. We were taking all the precautions, and that's what's very important. Now, in this process of the pandemic, I remember I got a call. And this is a very heart-moving call. We were having people connecting with us, some just to speak, some just to talk about the problems they had. And there was this call which came to me. It was from a driver. He was about, I think, 60, 70 kilometers away from Calcutta proper. And he said, sir, kya kare? I have a 2-month-old kid. I don't have milk. I don't have water. I have nothing in the house. I don't know how I'm going to survive, me and my family. Now, radio as a medium sends the voice out. You won't believe it. I'm not going to mention who, but from the hospitality sector, someone gave me a call. I said, Jimmy, we have enough of food. We have enough of ingredients to send it across. And guess what? When he said that on air, when he called me and told me that on air, an NGO came forward and the Calcutta police came forward just by hearing it. And next morning, with the support of the hospitality sector, it's a small thing, but just imagine, food, milk was reached to that driver's house. And this is just one off. I can imagine the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people across the country were supported, helped, provided with food in their big way or the small way. So it is a thing to be thought about. They did not care about themselves. They were out there helping people. The hotels did not have huge amount of guests. The rooms, many of them were not occupied. But still, they took it upon themselves to help. And I think that's what is a big salute to the hospitality industry. While everybody was stuck up in the houses, scared, hospitality industry was there on ground, not necessarily in the hotels, but helping people on ground, taking food to them, ensuring that people they connected with did not go hungry. Hats off, really. You know, with that, I'd like to go on to my next session. And the next session is Transformation in the Hospitality Sector, the Future of Hotels. And we have with us an amazing gentleman, dynamic, go-getting, jolly, always smiling. I just met him about 2 minutes ago. And trust me, very, very Josh infectious, I would say. You know, if you meet him, you really feel like charging ahead rather than doing things slowly. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Diwan Gautam Anand, an amazing personality. Well, Gautam Anand attended Delhi's modern school, graduated from honors in history from St. Stephen's College, and presented him with the college colors. This is a great honor in those days. And in 2022, he was presented with the Modern Knights Excellence Awards. A big salute to you, sir. Amazing, truly, truly amazing. And is an alumnus of the Cornell University, where he is a visiting professional. He began his journey with ITC. Wow. I love these guys at ITC, let me tell you. They are always go-getting, always chilled out, and they are bindas. I'm so sorry I'm being so frank, but that's what it is about. And when you are talking to an ITCN, let me put it this way, I'm giving you this thing, you feel so comfortable. And there's so much of Josh and go-getting attitude, and that's what Mr. Anand is all about. And of course, he was in ITC in 1980 as a management trainee, instrumental in the commissioning of ITC Kakatiya, Hyderabad, a property which he headed as a general manager for 5 years. Prior to this, Gautam has also gathered extensive experience at the Sheraton hotels in Hong Kong, Bangkok. This, we are going to discuss your foreign trips. It seems very interesting. Hong Kong, Bangkok, and San Francisco. In 2000, he took charge of the ITC Moria New Delhi, yes, the super prime property. And I still remember it was known to be Delhi's finest and still one of the finest hotels in Delhi, and not just in India. People who used to come from outside used to talk about it, and many times I think it was 100% occupancy. You couldn't get a room on quite a few occasions, I still remember. As Vice President and General Manager headed, he later moved on to the Divisional Head Office to head a cross-functional team as Vice President Operational Support and Quality. Till recently Executive Vice President ITC Hotels, he oversaw quality bench marking projects, and it goes on. Sir, you know, honestly, if I carry on with this, I think the entire time is going to go. But, ladies and gentlemen, kindly put your hand together and a warm welcome to Mr. Gautam Anand. Sir, we would like to have you on stage. And I would also like to call on, sir. I love your energy. Nene, I love your energy, seriously. I would like to call on Mr. TVS Shenoy, the President of CMA, and an amazing gentleman, to kindly interact on this amazing session which we're about to witness in a short while.
thank you, Jimmy, for what he's extremely good at. Actually, he's really good at shooting off rockets. We all feel very elated after he speaks. We feel that we are flying high till we land in the next destination. But thank you, Jimmy, for a wonderful start and wonderful kickoff of this session. Well, let me tell you, I've got nothing to do with the hospitality industry. And when I was asked, and when Dr. Subarno Bose said, hey, we should do a speak session, why don't you converse with Mr. Anand? Then I tried to do some homework, and then I realized I was miserable at it. So in this day and age, what you do when you don't know anything, one goes, what do the hospitality students do here when you don't know, when you don't know the question that you want to go to? Where do you go to these days? You go to ChatGPT. And that's what I did. So I had to pretend to be very intelligent when I had to converse with you, sir. And to be honest, I had absolutely no clue of what this industry is all about. So I went to ChatGPT and said, tell me the questions what I need to ask Mr. Gautam, who is a doyen in this. And ChatGPT gave me 10 lovely questions. And without too much of thought, I sent that questions to him. And when I sent these questions to him, I thought, here I have given a googly to you. And then I realized, when he came back today morning, when he met him, he said, you know what? I sent the same questions to ChatGPT to get the answers. So the questions which I sent to ChatGPT, he got the answers from ChatGPT. This conversation could be all about ChatGPT, and that's all about the future and wonderful about what a way to set the context and what a way to look at how the future of the industry is all going to shape and evolve. But let me start with this. Let me start with the first question which ChatGPT threw up. How do you see emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and IoT transforming the hotel industry? We have seen a lot of transformations take place, and we've seen it here, but an apt question to say, how do you start off this with?
So, Mr. Shenoy put me on the mat because I downloaded DigiYatra, okay, and I was entering Delhi's chaos. Dr. Bose knows that. So unless you have a DigiYatra, there are lines and queues and so on and so forth. And I just made a clean entry with DigiYatra. I was feeling good about myself. And suddenly I get this barrage of questions that Mr. Shenoy will ask me, all right? And I was discomforted for 5 minutes, but I also did what he did. But before that, I have a quote. This is how I normally feel. And after these questions came, and this is how I feel now, okay? And I quote this, and I will translate it for those of you who don't understand it. It says, खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे, बता तेरी रज़ा क्या है? So what it says, but the poor translation is by me, it says, make yourself so able that before every decree of fate, even God is forced to seek your consent. Unfortunately, what happens is that after the questions came from Mr. Shenoy, I don't think that I'm in control of myself. But I do remember that how your question was very logical, and I have an anecdote. There's always a backstory. So if you don't mind, I can give you a backstory.
Absolutely.
So many years ago, when I used to look after ITC Maurya, I got a call from, can you hear me? Yeah, so I got a call from Rajiv Nair, who's the head Microsoft those days, to say, Mr. Bill, okay, now they don't mention the name. So Bill is so big that he's like a date, right? So he said, Mr. Date is coming. So then I assumed it was Bill Gates. He said, but don't mention it on the phone. I said, okay. So he said, we need a hall for 200 people, and he's going to speak as the head of Microsoft. And at that time he still had. And then I got a call from Sanjeev Mirchandani, who made a similar request. Hey, we have a guest, and his name is Dates, right? So I said, sure. And he said, he wants to have a conference. He wants to call Dr. Bose. He wants to call Mr. Shenoy, and of course, Anil Garg. And I said, confirm, right? Now, so there I was, and I told my team, I said, guys, we're getting Mr. Dates, so let's be, And Mr. Dates' condition is that he hates walking. So if those of you who know ITC well, ITC Moria well, Anil knows it well, I know that the old towers is where he insisted on staying because he only lives in the towers. He will not live in ITC 1 or in the main block, but he will not. So therefore, to bring him down to the Kamal Mahal, which is the banquet hall, we had taken a golf cart, much to Anil's distress, from the classic golf course. So he would come down, attend session. Now the problem was that there were two Bill Gates. You know, if I had used artificial intelligence, I would have known that. So one Bill Gates was the entrepreneur, the Microsoft guy, and the other Bill Gates was the head of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And he wanted to take two simultaneous sessions. I had promised them one hall, and I only had one hall, but they wanted two halls. So there we were, you know, stuck with one Kamal Mahal, two Bill Gates, two dates, and a technology which unfortunately had to be reconfigured. So for some good reason, Anil Chadda, my colleague at that time, he worked all night long with the event manager, and we solved the problem. Okay, so the reverse of it happened to me in Milan, where I could go to a small kiosk where I could change my ticket. You know. So if I had artificial intelligence then, it would have given me the answers, which now happened in Milan, where I said I didn't want to go to Venice. I wanted the ticket to be rerouted to New Delhi, and I went into the spot, which was like based on artificial intelligence. It helped me right through, and I didn't have to go to Venice, and I flew directly to Delhi. All right. And where did I get the other answers from? And this is where the fun starts. So because you asked me this question about how do you see the emerging technologies as artificial intelligence and Internet of Things transforming the hotel industry, I also went into ChatGPT. And the answer, and I'm quoting from ChatGPT, okay, so please bear me out. And this is a rebuttal to Mr. Shenoy's question to me in the morning after I had passed the Indigo gates. It says, artificial intelligence is used in the hotel industry for revenue management, guest experience, and the automation of daily operations. To use AI in hotels, managers must consider, etc., 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 etc. Hotels such as Radisson Blu, Edwardian in London and Manchester. I wonder why they are always males. What about diversity? Wouldn't you prefer speaking to a Matilda?
I would love to.
Okay, then it says, intelligence concierges to check guests in and out of room service, answer questions 24/7. The best part, guests can text Edward. Guests can text Edward, their concierge, right from their phones. Consider. So this is what I use. I use the chat bot at the Meridian Hotel in Milan to reroute my ticket. So obviously it's working. All right. Hilton properties have reduced carbon emissions equivalent to removing 390.350 cars from the road, while saving over 1 billion in utility costs. And I also got a plug-in from ITC Hotel, my former employees, where of course they said that they use IBM system, all based real-time control to manage their entire hotel management systems. And I don't know whether you know this, but all ITC hotels, and this is not a plug for ITC, the share has dropped though today for some reason, is that they're all LEED platinum hotels, right? And they become super efficient as far as energy, etc., etc. is concerned. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And for all of you, LEED platinum hotels are something which gets certified if it's a green hotel. It's also all towards the sustainability bit.
Absolutely.
So on your experience of setting up hotels across India, you did see various tastes of various customers, and you all are very customer centric. And I pick up a very interesting part of the point which you did say, and let me try to pick up here. The part of women and women as guests. You would always say luxury is an experience long remembered after price is forgotten.
Yes.
And then you always said sensitize price with value.
Yes.
And then in an experience at ITC Moria, I did a little bit of homework, wherein you did the EVA floor.
Yes.
So that was something more like looking into the future for a future segment. So you tell us a bit about how did you think about it? And
if you grow up in Delhi and you work in Delhi, then these things happen by default. It's such a male-dominated, aggressive city. And we were going through all this onslaught of, and I shouldn't be saying this, assault of women, and it had seemingly seemed like the rape capital of the world. Mrs. Dixit, who was the chief minister, who we loved dearly, was unable to deal with it because she said the police doesn't report to me. So all this was happening there, and I think women, more and more women, thankfully, thanks to the corporatization of India, were now travelers, and there was a great need, and I think women wanted to chill, but they didn't want to go to the bar, and so what we thought of was to set up a whole floor. And we executed this in the same floor that Bill Gates stayed in. And we made sure that the elevator bypassed it. So if you were a individual lady traveler, they hate being called single, so don't make that mistake. Lady individual traveler, you get a special kind of card, and it takes you directly to your floor, and only those people who stay on that floor get access to it. Naturally, the women who service that floor, there are women who service that floor, etc., etc. But the fun part was that they kept all their doors open, and they had pajama parties, and I used to send up a small little beverage trolley in the evening, so they would have a drink and really lounge around. And this is what socialization was doing for them, okay? In the sense that they were socializing, they were making friends, and they endeared themselves to ITC and ITC hotels because they felt that they were being looked after. Okay. Now, there was a reverse snobbery as well, because I remember one particular lady wanted a male guest upstairs, and it was innocuous. It was a brother or a cousin, and sometimes friends become cousins. When you and the system disallowed that to happen. So she came down and she helped her, So it had its own, but God is kind. I think we were able to take this right through the country and to provide that element of safety. And a lot of women identified with that flaw. And God is kind because today you have, and in that moment of diversity, where more and more women are joining the workforce, and thankfully, yes, they love the EVA flaw.
So that was about a particular segment of people's women who would be interested, who would like to,
travelers, by and large, etc. I'm sure they come for holidays as well, but at that time Delhi was really the hub of business and so on and so forth.
So maybe we'll change tracks a bit about, and when you look at the future, you always have a rear view mirror when you see what the past was about, and the industry has gone through significant COVID times, and in COVID times, they say fixed cost is no longer fixed, it becomes variable.
Yeah, so, okay, so you were talking before this about about personalization or something.
That's
that
right.
I didn't answer, right?
That's right.
Okay, I'll tell you. We were like a human zoo. So Indian hotels were like a human zoo. So there was no technology, everything was manual. And there used to be processions of people receiving every guest. In fact, so much so that there was a very nice English gentleman who wrote a book. And unfortunately, the hapless victim of that book was yours truly. And he said that he was a guest at ITC 1. And there was this whole procession of people who received him, and they, like a barat, and walked him to ITC 1. So what used to happen is, you overcame the lack of technology through what we called as friendliness. We didn't know your name, right? We had your booking, but we didn't know how to connect. How do you connect a Shenoy with a face, right? And then we used to do strange things like, in the car that went to, and there were so many missed pickups, because there was cell phone that just about entered. So if Mr. Shenoy was arriving, there would be this, and there was a discipline, because the driver couldn't suddenly be picking up the phone, say, hey, I'm jaake Mr. Shenoy ko la raha hai, You can't pick up the phone and drive the car. So we thought of an ingenious idea of putting the name of Mr. Shenoy on the front windshield. So as soon as the doorman saw Mr. Shenoy, he would go running in to inform the GRE, who would go running in to tell the lab manager, and everybody was out there, you know. So we were friendly, okay, but it was irritating. We were so friendly that we even made this gentleman embarrassed because he used to come with his companion and we insisted that she was his wife. And that almost broke their marriage. How are you, Mrs. Singh, or whatever? He said, I'm not Mrs. Singh. All right, sorry. So then technology helped us garner what we got face recognition technology, and we managed to do guest history. So things freezed out, but I think the most sensible thing we did, Mr. Shenoy, was to get rid of the airport pickup. I'm grateful for your pickup today, okay? And hopefully I can take back the car back to my home in Delhi. But so what I think it was just what was happening is we were giving you a airport pickup, but we were charging you, right? So the perceived value was basically that because our airports were so badly managed those days, and that to get from an airport to a hotel almost was impossible. But then we found that, you know, with the advent of branded cabs, etc., and, you know, more organized policing, that we didn't know to keep the car, and nobody missed it. So we made an offer. So we said, Dr. Bose, you're coming there, would you like a BMW, would you like an ambassador, etc.? You know, the concierge, e-concierge would say that. And this is where, you know, the technology came in being, and he would make a choice to say, I need this car, or I need this car, or I'm going to ask Gautam Andhra to send me his car, like I made Mr. Shenoy, etc., etc. So thankfully, so we then became warm. So this whole transgression from being friendly, we became warm, right? Then, during the COVID, we became aloof. Because suddenly what was happening is that warmth, now can you imagine what happened in COVID? I thank Jimmy for his kind words and so on and so forth, but you know, everybody's wearing visors, right? There were these barriers between when you checked in. If you ever checked in into a hotel, although between you and me, I would lock up my doors and hope like hell that I don't get COVID, is that there would be these glass barriers between the customer and yourself at the Bukhara, which otherwise we wouldn't touch the architecture, and Anil will know that. We actually put partitions so that, you know, your food and my food would, and we stopped serving you drinks, we gave you miniatures so that, you know, the human contact. So from the warmth of arrival, we became dewarming, and we called it, well, low touch or limited touch. So you could actually go meander into your room and not meet anybody, okay? But fortunately for us, we had the technology and the wherewithal to make that happen. And Jimmy is correct that I think hotels were the front line as far as the COVID is concerned, because I know that one of our hotels, and I was responsible for the negotiation with the Delhi government, the Sheraton New Delhi became an extra of the Max Hospital. It was taken over by the Delhi government and made it into a, can you imagine? You know, and the horrifying stories that or some of those young people who were sort of interacting with, but fortunately, they only sent the CRPF people or the doctors, and not so, because, you know, I thought that there would be this whole stigma of.
Yeah, that's very interesting which you mentioned, because Mr. Puneet Chhatwal did mention the same in the morning.
Yeah.
When hospitals turned into COVID, when hotels turned into COVID
But
hospitals.
I think in their case, they volunteered to do that.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm just connecting a few dots with what you said, from friendliness to warmth to aloofness, and then digital technology adoption.
Yeah.
I'm connecting the dots with what Sohini asked in the morning.
Yeah.
She said, there is somewhere that you need to have a personal touch. Hospitality is all about personal, friendly touch and feel, and you're moving into digital.
Yeah.
I'm connecting with what you told in the morning when you walked into the Delhi airport and you saw the digital yatra and AI and ML scanning your face and saying, hey, welcome sir, welcome in here. I mean, in all of these transformations,
yes,
it was important for this industry to adopt and evolve technology as it goes.
Yes.
So in this, are you sensing that what is the next wave? Or?
Yeah. So I think look at the silly questions you're asked. I mean, how was your flight? Now, how could be my flight? You know, how was the jungly sandwich? Now, how could my jungly sandwich be? And how was your drive between the airport and the hotel? How do you think it will be? Right? I mean, these are irritating questions. And that's the pattern of questions that are normally asked. Now, is that being friendly? I think it's being intrusive. You know, sorry, maybe I'm taking an extreme answer to that. So I think what you would like is that when you arrive, you are recognized, you're acknowledged, your guest history is updated, your preferences are kept in the room, right, and tangibilized, and if I overcrowd your room, and this is what hotels are doing now, because what has happened, to answer that young lady's question, now there are teddy bears everywhere, you know. Now, keeping teddy bears and, you know, and what they call as tall sculptures, you know, they make sculptures out of tiles. So each time I go back to some hotel there's a swan or, you know, so by the time you want to go to bed, you have all these people who are sleeping with you if you don't have the patience to, and then, you know, and I know of an element called service at every arm's length. But if at every arm's length there's a cake, and I'm trying to switch off the lights, and my fingers go into the cake, I think it's a nuisance. You understand? So I think we've atomized this. First of all, in some hotels that I worked on, we've actually taken the floor, what we call as the sides of the bedside table, you know, to become much larger, so we could occupy those. But that hasn't stopped people from, every time a hotelier sees an empty space, he goes and plunks something on it, right? So I'm not very sure, but they're very efficient. I mean, there is no doubt. And they still ask you this question, and how was your flight?
I'm going to promise you I'm never going to ask you again how was the flight, but I'm just connecting to the point which you said about the beds. And when you talk about technology, and then you saw about the way which you changed from king-side beds to Hollywood twin beds.
Yes.
So that was also some kind of a way which...
Well, that's thanks to people like you. So Mr. Shenoy books a conference at the ITC Grand Chola. Now, because he's a strict boss and he wants to keep the marketing budget in line, he tells his people, look, we are going to ITC Grand Chola, but you have to share rooms. So now men don't like sharing rooms. Women sometimes enjoy, I don't know, women like sharing rooms? You don't like sharing rooms. Okay, so it's, you know, so what used to happen is that, and you know the business well, so all our beds by default are king beds, okay? And there's a 10% bed which is a queen bed, which is a twin bed. Now a twin bed is when there are two singles and there is something in the middle called the bedside table. Now, what the hell do you do, right? And there are only 10%. So typically in a hotel like ITC Grand Chola with 600 rooms, only 10% are twin bed. And yet Mr. Shenoy's conference, because Chennai now has a 20,000 square foot banquet space, he wants to have a dealer's meet or his marketing meet, and he's taken over 400 rooms, which makes it 800 guests, and the hall can take. These men are now sleeping on king beds. And look what they're doing. First of all, they're fighting over that bed space, all right? And then, okay, so what you did was you put two duvets, right? Now it's like you and your wife fighting over that duvet. I am not getting personal. I'm just giving you an example. I know that I have to do that. So then you said, okay, let's put two duvets, right? So you share the same bed. By protected, now you have two duvets. Now, how does that work? I mean, you know, and men or women, you know, have a wonderful way of sleeping. We go and, you know, especially when there's a marketing meeting and a couple of, you know, flights later, you sleep like invertedly. So men used to be sleeping on each other, and I think women were sleeping on each other. So the Hollywood bed is a transformation, because what it does is that it has no side table in the middle. It's enjoined, and it's something known as, you know, there's something known as a firmer.
So on a posturepedic mattress, which is a twin, it has a firmer which joins the bed, right? So when you need a king bed, it becomes a king bed. But when you don't need the king bed, you take away the firmer and you distance the king into two twins. That means you have a 6-inch gap between me and Mr. Shenoy, or you and your friend. So Hollywood twins. So what happens is, so the product formulation changed because of the Hollywood twin, right? And now the other thing we could do is, try for the future, make hotels with twin beds, and then you would stop having conferences. Then we'd be stuck with, and then men like Anil Garg want king beds, when he's paying that kind of price. The whole pleasure of sleeping on a king bed is, Dr. Bose, the king like you wants a king bed, right? Or you want a queen bed instead. Whatever. So that's how it, that's creativity, right? It wasn't my idea, it was an idea by Simmons. Simmons is, and I'm not plugging for Simmons, I don't work for them, but they were the greenest mattress in the world, right? And at that time, I was chairman of the product committee, and our job was to buy only, please do due diligence on, this is our chairman's vision, Mr. Deveshwar, who actually set this whole thing in motion on the triple bottom line. And he said, please make sure that all the products you buy have a green footprint. So that's how this idea came, and that's how we implemented a lot of Hollywood twins.
So taking on the aspect of change. And pandemic did teach us a lot about change.
Yeah.
They always say make good day crisis. And pandemic taught us a lot about being grateful just for being alive. And as you said, the industry, hospitality, hospitals, services went through terrible time in each of these.
Yes.
And here I pick up a few little pointers from one of your points, which you said, hotels of the future are curators, matchmakers. And you went on to define each of these. So how do you see a curator is an integrator of an experience, and matchmaker, integrator of people?
So,
that thought here.
As you probably went through, I think we all went through this, we all became very lonely during the COVID. And in our case, it was endless. The first wave, the second wave, the damn third wave, an imminent fourth wave, and now, it was lonely, right? And for people like me who are gregarious, who like to communicate, I used to quietly go and stay at the Sheraton New Delhi, Dr. Bose. And I had the KLM and the Lufthansa crew who were as lonely as I am. So we used to meet in the lounge and have a little chat. That's all, nothing more, just a chat. But there was a sense of loneliness, and I think. So, I think what's happened is that in this reorchestration of what we call as the Great New Renaissance, we defined some characters, cast of characters, because the essential attributes of a hotel are basis what? Basis, the first is it must have heritage. If it doesn't have heritage, then it must have quality. Now this has no heritage, but has great quality, all right? The second is atmospherics. I must, to use this euphemism, sorry, but this should be shock and awe. They should, wow, this is a hotel. It's like when you pass through ITC Royal Bengal, right? And shock and awe. I mean, the intention was to create shock and awe. I don't know what the impact on Calcutta is, but shock and awe. And especially when you enter the interiors, if you've been to some of the hotels we've done, and many others have done, you get shock and awe. The third thing, of course, is this thing called the cast of characters. And the cast of characters are both internal and external. The external is people like you. The internal are people like me. And we must remember that the attribute of dealing with both these people is kindness, right? And the fourth thing, of course, is, we call it enacting an experience. I mean, if you don't get a good experience, then all these things have failed. The outcome has to be based on experience. And of course, what helps us there is, as usual, technology and your favorite, artificial intelligence crime buster, all right? So I thought we came up with three sort of nomenclatures. So one we call the curator. It's an integrator of experiences. A curator integrates external partnerships to keep hospitality fresh and make guest experience relevant. Now, basically what I'm saying is that hotels have to be Instagrammable. It's as simple as that. You know, if it's Instagrammable, then it's, and I'll give you an example. Now, the other day at the Hyatt in New Delhi, Gagan Anand, I'm sure you've eaten, 60,000 rupees for a plate. 60,000 rupees for a plate for Gagan Anand, who comes from Bangkok, right? Can you imagine the bragging rights that these people are getting? I didn't go. I couldn't afford to go. But the place was packed night after night after night after night. So these are what happens with the curator. The second element we thought is the matchmaker, the socialization, single. So if you recall the conversation we had about these ladies and their mobile bar, they were empowered. I mean, they didn't need to call up room service and have an intruder because they used to lounge around in pajamas, have a little drink, make friends with each other, like you and I have just socialized. And I think so that becomes the matchmaker. And matchmaker doesn't necessarily mean, okay, there's also a matchmaker who gets singles to meet, all right? So you socialize. So what do? We have a happy hour in a hotel, or you do events where people get together. If you have an art collection and then you talk about the art, or you have walks. All hotels are such, hotels who made the cut, Mr. Shenoy, are not hotels, they become institutions. In all the hotels that I've worked in, we made them into institutions. For instance, the ITC Moria has modern Indian art. Collectibles to the extent of pioneers of ITC commissioned the best artists of the progressive artists of India to make massive art sculptures. So, and they're normally inanimate. So if you have somebody who walks you around and tells you what they are, Tayyab Mehta, Ahmed Hussain, Krishan Khanna, including Mrs. Mukherjee, who is a sculptor from Bengal, who did the whole Ashoka series, Ashoka the Valiant and Ashoka in Remorse. So such beautiful pieces of art. So that, so this is what socialization does. Matchmaker does. The neighbor. Local. Now I think, Mahatma Gandhi was the world's first, what to call it, locavore. He was a locavore. I mean, we may not agree with everything he does, all right, but he was a great locavore. He used to say, integrate local societies, right? So what the neighbor does is integrate the local culture. Look, there is no point in making some of the best buildings in India today, post-independence, are hotels. I mean, if I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong. But if you look around you, and I think they're all based on what they call as rooted in the Indian soil, all right? So every hotel has a story to tell. And so Mahatma Gandhi's local war was, please eat local. Please encourage local communities and try and use as much as the locals produce. Okay? Now, interestingly enough, his favorite food, and this is just for information, and we assume that because he's Mahatma Gandhi, he had dal chawal. No, he did not have dal chawal. He just believed in portion control, okay? And the portion control came up this great thali, and he liked aloo dum, which came out of Bengal. He liked porcelain, which is kulfa saag, and he liked chapati. He did not like dal. Probably one of the reasons why India imports 600,000 tons of dal every year. Did you know that? India, it's a scandal. And the reason I know this is because the Canadian ambassador invited me for a hard night. 1,000 people came. So I was wondering, why 1,000 people? Because we are the largest importers of pulses from Canada. So it's a very humble dal. It doesn't have very humble antecedents. Sorry, it shocked the hell out of me. In fact, the whole sustainability agenda seems to be going awry because we have so many. Although I must give credit to Mr. Gandhi because he made us self-sufficient in grain, in the Green Revolution and of course the Milk Revolution. We can't give him credit for the Egg Revolution, but he certainly made us self-sufficient. The next component is the architect, and I think hotels need to be fluid. After this whole silos that we created, thanks to COVID, everything was working in silos, you know, touch me not, talk to me not, don't go here, don't go there. So we need fluid spaces. If you go to ITC Keynote in Hyderabad, which is I was responsible for it, they're fluid spaces. They flow into each other, you know, like a nice river, so that there are no rights of admission that reserved, you know, no reserved lounges. You just go and once you're inside, you just meander, you know, right through the hotel. And I think what architects do that. And so I also spoke about the biophilic design, and I think the Bangalore airport, the new Bangalore airport, brings nature inside the airport. Singapore has done it. So we've incorporated, I think we should do that in the future. So a biophilic design is the increasing trend in designing spaces for people to feel physically and psychologically comfortable. You know, nature, use, for instance, in India, we should use wood, which is like bamboo, etc., etc. So the Bangalore airport is founded on 4 pillars: technological leadership, the idea of a terminal in a garden, environment and ecological stewardship, and a celebration of Karnataka's rich heritage and culture. So this is what, does it sort of help you with the answer?
No, it does. It does.
It doesn't?
It does.
Oh,
so
does.
because we often mention that hotels of the future need to have different models, and you kind of elucidated to each of these. I just pick up the point which you said when you're narrating it, shock and awe. And actually you look at the Royal Bengal and you see from out, it's when you drive past in the evening, the magnificent. I think you get one of the best movie shots, even though you're on the flyover. You get fantastic images of shock.
I love it when people staying at the JW Marriott sending pictures from, for me that is shock and awe, you know.
So when you went about crafting ITC Bengal and the kind of, I think the tallest in the eastern part of the country and the largest number of rooms.
Yeah, I think you've seen the rooms. I mean,
Yes.
these are look, I think the great need of the young people that are sitting here is that they want a great bed and they want a great work table. A smart bed and a smart work table, and they want switches at every arm's length. They don't have to go around. And I think the ITC Royal Bengal has fabulous rooms. You know, and they're not expensive rooms, but they look expensive because the light levels, what we call it the lux levels. So lux levels enhance your mood. You know. So the ambient condition or decoration. Ambient conditions are basis, whiteness. So my shirt must be whiter than the captain of a ship. You know, the reflectance levels or the on the marble must be enough so that I can see myself on the marble. You know, the lux levels must be high that they don't disturb my eye. But even when I don't need my sex to read it, but it's so, and it makes me feel so good about myself when I look in the mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the best looking of them all? And the answer says, hey, you are. But the lights are so nice and attractive. So there are lots of ways to garner good perception. I think that is the important thing, that hotels must make people feel special. There used to be a time when people felt exclusive, but right now they democratize themselves, and I think they want you to feel special.
So it's mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? So I guess
well, she is.
so I'll just pick that part of it up, and you were saying about the needs of the millennial and Gen Z generations, and the needs of these generations are so different compared to what it is today, or what it was in the past. They're avid travelers, they have the mind of their own, loud, and they speak out their mind through. And when, again, come back to the point when you said hotel industries have to be elegant and spaced out, and I think Royal Bengal is a great example. And connecting it to the culinary part, I've seen Dr. Bose very passionate about food.
Yeah.
Yesterday we were discussing that this is the year of the millets part of it here.
I'll connect you to the pavilion, the Grand Market Pavilion. And
are you happy with it or not?
I think it's got one of the
best. So I'm responsible for it, so I'll take a bow. Because if you said it wasn't, then I'd give somebody else the credit. I'll discredit.
There's a nice little story behind how do you name this pavilion, and also what kind of menu gets into a pavilion. How do hotels
so I think what happened was, if you looked at I looked at the great markets of India, all right, and I don't know whether you know this, but Jahanara Begum, who was almost the consort of the emperor and the daughter of Shah Jahan, constructed many parts of what they call as Shahjahanabad, or what we call as Old Delhi. And in the center of Old Delhi's roads, Chandni Chowk, there is a Neher Faiz. It means the river of victory. Okay, so she made the world's first luxury street, right? And then later on, with the advent of time, with the colonials came, they made a very fashionable and luxury market here called the New Market. I don't know, I haven't been there, but I don't know if there's somebody old enough to tell us about New Market. But I thought that having seen what Jahanara Begum made, and having seen some markets like in Delhi, the Connaught Place, which was very glorious in its own time. And in Simla, where I grew up, the mall was, there are very glamorous shops there, right? So I thought, why not create a market pavilion, the Grand Market Pavilion, and dedicate it to where it all started, the grandness of the, I think it was called New Market. Am I right, Dr. Bose? Okay. So I tried my best. And then, of course, my boss at that time, Habib Rahman, insisted, and brilliantly so, that we should put the food of the northeastern states there, all right? And I thought that was an ingenious idea, and that really struck gold, because Calcutta is also the gatehead for all of the northeast, or was. Now, of course, there are flights. In fact, there was a gentleman sitting next to me who was going all the way to Arunachal Pradesh. The same flight was going there. So I thought that it would create that sense of grandness, space, and the kids love it.
So I can watch for it. So the Grand Market Pavilion, I think, has got one of the great spreads, one of the best spreads, and now getting to know the history and story behind it, I think it will make it.
Well, there's another one there called which is called the Brass Bar, which was originally called the Jazz Bar, but as usual, Anil Garg and his band of merry men would come and finger me and say, look, that's, we have a problem with copyright. So it came back and became so it's supposed to be dedicated to the jazz era that Kolkata was so famous for. But it's now called, I think, the Brass Bar, something like that.
Maybe I'll open it up to questions. I've been getting a nudge from a team in terms of a time check. Would there be questions coming in from the audience?
I fortunately exhausted Mr. Shenoy.
No, I've got few more to go.
I'll have to go to.
We have to go to the chat GPT to get the answers going.
Yes, sir. Any questions?
It's always, it takes.
I'd like some comments on the Hollywood twin. I can see the girls were giggling about it. Would you like a Hollywood twin, or you wouldn't like a Hollywood twin?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still, I was immersed to learn that eggshell can be used for so many purposes. I requested him, and I'm still requesting through this body, that so that we can use this eggshell and also in different purposes, how we can use it. And this lighting that we have been referring to, that can be used by IT users, so that lot of lights cannot be unnecessarily lit.
I agree with,
so many people.
I agree with you, sir. In fact, these lights are blinding me as well.
Yeah.
I can't even see you.
This is a national wastage, I think.
I agree
that
with
we
you,
should
absolutely.
do something about this.
I think the point what he was raising was in the earlier session, Dr. Bose was mentioning. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Dr. Bose was mentioning how they make use of waste in every possible way.
Yeah.
And the eggshells was an example wherein they make use of eggshells, translate into cakes, and then actually use the cakes to feed it to the I mean, give it for a philanthropic cause.
Right.
And I'm connecting the other point which you said perhaps, and connecting to the point which you said of lumens in the hotel. How do you use the right amount of lumens and light without creating too much of waste?
There's a definition, everything is trackable, sir, So I will tell you that my shirt, if you take a reflectometer, would be 97 on whiteness. Okay. Similarly, there's a way of checking the lux level in a room, right? And these are not the best solution. The best solution are lights that come from. So if you've seen the Oscar yesterday with Deepika Padukone was giving that fantastic announcement, there was no lights on her face, but there were lights embedded on the stage, which are reflective lights. So it gives her a glow, right? So unfortunately in a banquet hall, because you have to, the stage keeps moving, you can't embed those lights, but you can have these lights, which are on the rail, on these tracks. You don't need those lights actually. And these lights that you mounted on these rails are competent enough to handle the illumination that you talk about, and it'll be an energy saver. It'll also give us that nice hue. Like we mentioned, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?
Interestingly, so I think most of the LEED certified buildings also use a lot of how efficiently use power and how to use natural sunlight.
Absolutely. In fact, if you want, I can give you some data. It's not a plug for ITC, but I thought that so what they have done is that, so they sent me this presentation yesterday. So they, yes, you can. So what they've done is they have their savings. They said that they have. So of course, water conservation is one. They're using atmospheric water generators installed at select hotels, extract from water, atmosphere, moisture and air, and use as potable water. Waste mitigation, and then I'll come to the electrical thing if I can find it. A single-use plastic, which they've done very successfully. And then, of course,
maybe rooftop solar and all that.
Yeah. So they're saying that 25 to 30% of all their power requirements are by sustainable methodology, and it's in the grid, which means that they've used harnessed solar, wind, and even river turbines to actually garner their energy. And they, as I told you, they monitor it through artificial intelligence. So there's been a fair amount of work that has already been done.
This entire industry.
And so today there are experts. If you get an expert, we are such a specialized society. For instance, I know that the gentleman who did the lighting for ITC Royal Bengal is an Indian American called Swami. Okay, he's used pin lights, and you'll be surprised that pin lights, which light up the entire structure, the cost of which is negligible, right? In the old days, we used to use these halogens like this, like the Taj Mahal sometimes uses, etc.
There's so much of science and technology and IoT and MI, which is getting into ML, which is getting into the designing of hotels as well. I think that's the point which is coming. I've just got about maybe a question or your last piece of advice. I'm really sorry we're running out of time. I've given two little nudges from my team as well. How would you, if there's a kind of a message that you like to leave to this audience? We've got people who are connected, is going streaming live on YouTube. Anything that you like to leave a message for them?
Yeah, so I think the challenges are that you must enjoy what you do, all right? If you don't enjoy what you do, then you should pack your bags and leave. And I think the first most important thing is engage with yourself. Engage with yourself to say, what are you? Where do you want to go? Do you want to? Because currently I've noticed that people are scared of working in hotels because they believe that we make you work 12 to 14 hours to 15 hours to 16 hours. But all that has changed right now. All the dehumanizing has changed, Jimmy. So we don't make you work 20 hours, 25 hours. You want to come back to hotels, you're most welcome. Okay. Engage with the product. You must engage with the product. Now, for instance, the gentleman's question on these lights, I must engage with it. I can't just keep walking around like a peacock and not engage with what's happening here and talking about the atmosphere. And I'll tell you what our challenges are, Mr. Shenoy, that, we made a promise to the board of ITC that the quality of indoor air would be as good as Rishikesh. Simple as that. And trust me, I know people, and there's a way of monitoring that. So if you go to an ITC hotel, at least, during the time that I, was looking after it, you actually got pure oxygen, right? And some people had a problem sleeping because they said, I need a little impurity because, so, then of course you must engage with people. So it's no longer fair to sort of make Jimmy work 24 hours. It doesn't work like that. And if there's an inhumanity or inhuman practice, then we should take them to the cleaners. I think there's a roster, there's a shift system, whatever is the, the laid out timings that are, I think 8 to 9 hours is what all of us are expected to perform. Whether you are an entry level or, I think that's the, then of course you must self-educate yourself. Just because you're a graduate doesn't mean that life is over. You have to, even older people today have had to go to Washington State, do MBA, go to Cornell, and, so that we're able to break the glass ceiling. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So please enjoy your job and the hotel business. And let me tell you, in the annals of India's growth in the future, the two things that are not talked about, we keep saber rattling about the defense services and our great foreign service, but the two things that will hold us in good stead in the future is India's soft power. Look what Bollywood is doing all over the world. I mean, they're everywhere, man. I mean, and holy. Every capital of the world is playing holy. Okay, right. And the second is services. So India's GDP, if you atomize India's GDP, then in excess of 60% of that contribution comes from services, right? And we are talking about this great manufacturing nation. Please don't quote me on this. I mean, I'll get into trouble. But I'm saying, so this is what it is. So our soft power and of course our service sector, whether you work in hotels or in retail or in insurance or in travel or in tourism or in hospitality or in virtual Airtel or whatever else, doesn't really matter. But I'm saying that's where the action is, right? And so that's the demographic dividend not spoken about. Dr. Bose, I know, speaks very eloquently on this, and I'm glad and I'm grateful. But not everybody else is. I was at a seminar the other day. The one guy was wanting to take us to war. Maruf Raza, war. And the other gentleman from the foreign ministry, he said, our foreign affairs. And I said, look, guys, you guys are like tigers in the room. What about the elephant in the room? The quiet crusader who's actually unifying. And let me tell you, in about 10, 15 years, 25% of the world's service industry is going to come from your country. So rejoice.
On that note, a big round of applause for I end this on a very interesting point. So today there's a young gentleman who stood up and asked, well, we slog it out in this industry for almost 12, 14 hours a day, plus much more than that. There's no holidays for us. And of course, a poorly paid part of it. And the way which you said, the future is bright. This decade belongs to India. And of course, the services industry is all about being passionate and hardworking, and more importantly, stay invested. And they said, don't take life too seriously. One doesn't get out of it alive. So enjoy as much as you can and take a small little breaks wherever possible. On that note,
I'll just give you an example of that.
Yeah.
So I met this young man at Hyderabad airport, and he works for an airline, Dr. Bose, and he said, I used to work under you and you were a terrible boss. I said, I completely agree with you. He said, you used to make me work 12 to 14 hours a day. I said, I am a very cruel man. He said, but I want to thank you. I said, why? He said that when I went for my job to an airline company, they asked me, how many years experience do you have? So he said, I have 5 years experience but thanks to the dictator Gautam Anand, I have 10 years of practice. So he got a raise. Thank you.
On that note, and wishing everybody has bosses like you, sir. And thank you very much for a lovely session. I wish we had more time, but I think passion exuded from every word which you spoke. On behalf of the CMA, very grateful for being here. And Jimmy, over to you.
Well, rightly said, love what you do and do what you love and always succeed. It's a matter of time. And I'd like to call on Mr. Anil Garg, Vice President of CMA, to do the honors of felicitating Mr. Anand. Sir, it's been such a pleasure having you engage and interact with us. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear a bit of Eden Gardens right out here. What do you say? Well, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It was indeed a very enlightening. Thank you so much, sir. Really, truly amazed and very enlightening. Thank you so much. Now we'll be going all the way to the UK. Yes, sitting out here in the city of joy, we'll be going all the way to the UK, ladies and gentlemen. And the next session is sustainability of global hospitality and service industry. And for that, we have this amazing personality, Professor David Foskett, MBE, eminent author, educator, and global hospitality expert, chairman of the International Hospitality Council, former dean, University of West London, UK. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be going over to him online.
Hello, can you hear me?
Professor, a warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
His audio is not coming.
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Professor, we can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. Well, good morning to you all from London. It's very early morning in London, very cold, but the sun is trying to shine. And I'm sure it's shining on all of you there in Calcutta. It is indeed a great honor for me and a pleasure to speak to you today on the subject of sustainability, which is a very, very important subject. It was before the pandemic and even more so after the pandemic as we try to recover from the miserable years, 2 years or more of the pandemic and lockdown. Sustainability has become a major issue, if not the issue, with regard to hospitality and tourism. And what is the biggest problem we have is sustainable energy. Europe is at war. The war in Ukraine has shocked us all. Energy prices have tripled. And companies are looking to reduce energy costs significantly. And that's because successive governments have failed to have an energy security policy. They have failed in energy security. And as we say, the chickens have come home to roost. And as a consequence, many households, many companies are suffering. So the real issue regard to post-pandemic and sustainability is energy. And so what are companies doing? Companies are looking to reduce their energy costs by looking at their equipment, by introducing more induction hobs, more microwave cookery, and the big piece of equipment that's being introduced both domestically and commercially is air fryers, which don't require so much energy and reduce costs. And we have been forced to do that. But sustainability goes beyond energy. And I always say to be hospitable is to be human, and to be human is to be hospitable. But now, today, to be human is to be hospitable and to be sustainable. We now have to be sustainable because the young people, our customers, are telling us, we want you to be sustainable. We will not use your facilities, your hotels, unless you have a sustainable policy, an environmental policy. Water is becoming a crucial factor in sustainability. Water management. Because of climate change, we have seen, particularly in this country and other countries, water shortages. How we manage water in the future. How we look after our water policy management. And of course, hotels are very looking crucially at their laundry costs, asking customers, asking guests, and guests expect it. Do you really need your bed changing every day, your sheets, your towels, etc.? Because water management is becoming a key factor. How we recycle water, particularly grey water, has become another issue. And we all know about waste. Waste is another key factor that hotels are looking at, restaurants are looking at, how to train people, skill people in the use of waste management, how to get greater yields from products to prevent waste, and to use bioenzymic fluid systems which break down fats and oils and starch. So these are key issues, and young people are very, very conscious of these. To them, it's fundamental. To them, It's common sense. Look after our planet. And we have to look at the food chain. More and more companies are trying to buy local, providing they can produce the quantities. They're getting to know their local suppliers, promote sustainable production. Looking at the environmental issues across the food chain. How we can reduce food miles. Why import strawberries in January from Egypt? This is what people are asking. Let's go back to seasonal produce. And in doing so, reducing the waste levels. What do we do with food we can't sell? Well, what's happening here is they're giving the food to food banks and local communities at a much reduced cost, and in some cases, no cost. Now, since the pandemic, the mindset has changed. And we have to look at sustaining the workforce. The last very eloquent speaker talked about working long hours in the hospitality industry. 14 hours a day, which was not uncommon. Today, young people are saying, we don't want to work those hours. We want you to look after us. If you want us to work in the hospitality industry, which we love, we enjoy, but we get to a point where we're not enjoying it because we're tired, we're burnt out. Let us work less hours. So companies are looking at giving young people more time off and other staff more time off. For example, a 4-day working week, 4 days on, 3 days off. Looking after their well-being. And that's important when we want to sustain our workforce and develop our workforce and provide key training opportunities. Continue to train and update. And promoting equality and diversity in the workforce. Equality and diversity is so, so important. Continue to innovate and to become creative. We cannot no longer do things the way we always used to do things to be sustainable. To live is to change, but to grow is to change and become sustainable. In the new environment that we're now in, the working environment, to live is to change, but to grow and to grow with our communities, to grow our companies, we have to be sustainable. And that's the big difference in post pandemic, building partnerships with communities, reaching out to communities. And that's the challenge we all have. No one is saying it's easy, but it's a challenge. And it's the challenge we must overcome if we are going to respond to the demands to be sustainable, to protect the planet, to battle against climate change. We all have this responsibility. And this has been a wake-up call. And the young people have given us this wake-up call. And not only that, the war in the Ukraine has shaken Europe. And many people are asking, why on earth did we become more sustainable in our energy, use of energy, and not have the security? Because the energy factor has really shaken Europe. And the continuing debates with politicians is about energy, environmental issues, sustainability, because they know that in a democratic society, their votes, the votes they need, are from the people who are saying, what are you doing about these very important issues? How do we protect the future generations? And this comes from the top down. The king is very conscious of these sustainability, environmental factors. The Prince of Wales has launched competitions to protect the environment. And we're saying to young people and entrepreneurs, come up with ideas, be creative, be innovative, because there's a lot of talent within our young people where they have the ideas and they can bring them to fruition and help us all. And I always say we must listen carefully to young people. Listen carefully. That's why we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Because they are saying sustainability is the #1 issue. Of all the factors I've talked about, energy, food miles, waste management, water management. I read a book recently that said that in the future, if we don't sort out water management, there will be war amongst nations over the use of water. And that's quite frightening, because water is a very precious commodity, and yet we waste so much of it. And coming back to what I said earlier, if we stay in a luxury hotel, we expect the sheets to be changed every day, but do we? We have to cut down on water bills, on detergents, and look for eco-friendly cleaning products. We all have to work together. And I know when I talk to young people That's the number one issue they have. How do we become more sustainable? And I say to them, tell us your ideas of how to become more sustainable. We are trying. Sustainable supplies, sustainable fish supplies, sustainable farming, sustainable agriculture. Every aspect of the hospitality industry has to have a key word, sustainable. Whether we're dealing with water, whether we're dealing with waste, whether we're dealing with energy, whether we're dealing with suppliers, whether we're dealing with produce, we all have to look at sustainability. Ask yourself the question, how sustainable are we? How can we reduce, recycle, and eliminate? There's been great success on almost eliminating plastics, single-use plastics. But we have to go further. I don't know any hotel or restaurant that uses plastic straws, all gone back to paper, plastic cups replaced with paper. So we are moving forward. How we reduce the amount of paper is another big issue as well. But we are. And young people are very conscious of not using so much paper. It's us oldies like me that have to print everything off. But they don't, because they think differently. They are different. The young people are our future. The young people are our gems. They are our gems. They are our jewels of the future. They are the ones that will take this forward into the next generation. So let's all work together. Let's support one another, as we are in the UK post-pandemic, in trying to battle against the climate change and to be conscious and to pressurize our politicians. Keep on to be more sustainable. So I say to you, carry on the good work. And I congratulate IIHM over and over again for the initiative, and Dr. Bose in particular, who makes sustainability his #1 priority for the YCO. And he keeps banging on the table about sustainability. And it's people like him that wake us up, that call us to arms and say, treat sustainability seriously. It's our #1 objective. So post-pandemic, this has become the major issue. And I want you to carry on flying the flag for sustainability as I am, and work together. So thank you for listening. I'll take any questions if you like, and I wish you all the best. Are there any questions?
Well, eventually the mic came on. Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor David Foskett, for this amazing insight. You've always been the gentleman who has spoken strongly about sustainability. And of course, Dr. Subarno Bose also is a staunch go-getter for sustainability. And I'd like to invite Dr. Subarno Bose on stage to personally thank Professor for this amazing insight today, all the way from the UK. I know it's early morning there, but thank you, Professor. Over to Dr. Bose.
Oh, thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Professor Foskett. That was very, very insightful, and examples which you gave are, I think, very global. There may be different issues facing by different countries. For example, UK and Europe is facing a huge energy crisis. India is facing possibly more crisis in terms of food waste. And I think it was an absolutely incredible presentation. Thanks very much. And on behalf of the Calcutta Management Association, on behalf of the President TVS Shenoy, let me once again thank you, Professor Foskett, for this, for your time and for this fantastic presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, Jimmy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bose, for those amazing words. And ladies and gentlemen, now to sum up and give the vote of thanks, I would like to call on Mr. Anil Garg, Vice President CMA, to kindly come on stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy. Is the mic on? Yes, okay. So it's my proud privilege to give the vote of thanks and end to a fantastic session. It's been so interesting and so engrossing that we've forgotten what time it is. But nonetheless, I'll start by thanking our principal sponsor, the Tata Steel Group, co-sponsors, CESC Limited. The whole event has been in association with the Telegraph, who've supported us consistently and over the years, unwavering support. Associate sponsor Pattern, knowledge partner JIS Group, supported by India Power, and radio partners 91.9 Friends FM. Thank you, Jimmy. And I'd also like to say thank you to the speakers, Mr. Puneet Chhatwal, who so effectively laid out the scenario of tourism and hospitality in India, the huge potential that it has, 100 million jobs by 2030, he said, would be available in these sectors, hospitality and tourism. I'd also like to thank Mr. Harshavardhan, Neotia, and Dr. Subarno Bose for the conversation on sustainability being at the heart of hospitality. Hospitality, as we know, is more seen as a five-star hotel kind of culture, but not so anymore. The hospitality extends right up to the much lower kind of hotels as well. And even within the hospitality industry at the upper end, sustainability has been a theme which has been there for a long period of time. And it's the right theme to focus on at this point. Then we had a session by Mr. Malik Fernando, the MD of Resplendent Ceylon, in which he spoke on the transformation of hospitality and services sector in Sri Lanka. There were some amazing resorts that he showcased, which really are at the forefront of trying to reinvigorate the tourism sector there. This was followed by a session with Mr. Gautam Anand, the Fireside chat with Mr. Shenoy, and Mr. Anand really spoke from the heart, and he told us some very simple messages, some of which were that in the hospitality sector, care and comfort is long remembered after price is forgotten. So the winning mantra really in the hospitality sector is that you have to have your heart in the business. And if you have your heart in the business, you will be able to deliver care and hospitality and love, which will long be remembered. Professor David Foskett, MBE educator, global hospitality expert and former dean of the University of West London, UK. He spoke remotely, and he also focused on the issues related to sustainability and the key aspects that the hospitality industry must continuously focus on. And these aspects of sustainability have become even more relevant in this age of climate change and waste management. Lastly, I'd like to thank the MC, Mr. Jimmy Tangri, for very effectively conducting the whole event and keeping us all alive and on our toes in a way, and extremely interested. And last but not the least, the audience, the volunteers, the hotel, Vivanta, and the logistics partners who made this event a grand success. So ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the event end, and lunch is served. I invite all of you to have lunch. Thank you.
Just one more minute. I would like to invite upon the stage Mr. Shenoy, President of Calcutta Management Association. You know, when we were young, though I am young still, we used to call a person the heartthrob of Kolkata. I would like to request Mr. Jimmy Tangri to please come on stage. I told रात 12 से सर 2 बजे तक मैं जागता था just for you. So just a small memento for the MC of the day.
I think Mr. Shenoy and the CMA team and the directoring has truly rocked. I think it's been an amazing insight and a beautiful learning experience. Thank you so much.
Just a small memento to Mr. Jimmy Tangri. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.